TV. Can't believe people still tune into TV. I can't believe people still dial up shit on the radio. What a primitive way to consume media. When you can get the pure digital injection straight from the loins of the electronic Satan. The internet. A great, sprawling, multi-tentacled beast stretching into the homes and iPods and Androids and iPhones, stretching into the minds of man. The internet connecting us all, even though we don't want to be connected. Neural pathways stretching out through the cities of the world, connecting us, connecting our consciousness. It's the mind of the earth, the Gaian mind waking up. And one thing we know about the mind of the earth, it loves cats and porn. Hello to you, my dear friends, family, enemies, non-enemies, non-located beings, clouds of consciousness zinging through the interwebs, robots, artificial intelligence devices, and government agents that may be listening to this podcast at this very moment. Welcome. Welcome to the Duncan Trussell Family Hour, and thank you for allowing me into your mind, into your home, through the circuitry and motherboards of the various electronic devices that you are using to channel this podcast into your life. Now a reading from Aleister Crowley, Book 4. Definitions. Magic is the science and art of causing change to occur in conformity with will. Illustration. It is my will to inform the world of certain facts within my knowledge. I therefore take magical weapons, pen, ink, and paper. I write incantations, these sentences in the magical language, i.e. that which is understood by the people I wish to instruct. I call forth spirits, such as printers, publishers, booksellers, and so forth, and constrain them to convey my message to those people. The composition and distribution of this book is thus an act of magic, by which I cause changes to take place in conformity with my will. Postulate. Any required change may be effected by the application of the proper kind and degree of force in the proper manner through the proper medium to the proper object. Illustration. I wish to prepare an ounce of chloride of gold. Yeah, I definitely need to make some of that soon. I must take the right kind of acid, nitrohydroloric, and no other, in sufficient quantity and of adequate strength, and place it in a vessel which will not break, leak, or corrode, in such a manner as will not produce undesirable results with the necessary quantity of gold, and so forth. Every change has its own conditions. In the present state of our knowledge and power, some changes are not possible in practice. We cannot cause eclipses, for instance, speak for yourself, or transform lead into tin, or create men from mushrooms, but it is theoretically possible to cause in any object any change of which that object is capable by nature, and the conditions are covered by the above postulate. Wow, Crowley was really intense. He would have been fun to sit next to on the bus. Here's an interesting fact about Aleister Crowley that a lot of people don't know. His doctor died within 24 hours of him dying, and the rumor is that Crowley put a curse on him because he wouldn't prescribe more morphine for his pain. Either way, Crowley was a badass motherfucker. And the book, Book 4, Magic, there'll be a link for that on the comments section of this episode of the Duncan Trussell Family Hour. Aleister Crowley, Book 4, breaking it down. Magic's not some Harry Potter bullshit. It's simple logic. And that's what's really fun when you read Aleister Crowley, is you realize that the guy isn't some yammering dimwit, but actually he's just a very logical person who knew how to summon demons and spirits, angels, higher astral beings, and who also had a lot of his shit ripped off, supposedly, by L. Ron Hubbard, who was one of his disciples in the beginning. Check it out, Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard. It's a fascinating story about a rocket scientist who had his girlfriend stolen by the founder of Scientology. What did they have in common? They were all devotees of Aleister Crowley. Parsons, in fact, is a fairly well-known rocket scientist responsible for discoveries in the field of solid-state rocket fuel. There's a crater on the moon named after him. And there's a crater somewhere in California where his laboratory used to be. He blew himself up. And people speculate that he blew himself. He was actually trying to summon this force that Crowley called a thelema. I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's the energy of magic. And he was trying to summon it, and it blew him up. You can fuck yourself up, man. You can mess around with the wrong things. You can fuck yourself up. If you're training pit bulls, eventually a pit bull could bite you. That's going to happen. If you're trying to be a professional basketball player, you can have a heart attack out in the court. And if you're trying to become a master of the high forms of magic, I suppose there's the possibility for igniting yourself with the intense pranic energy which exists in all things and can be channeled using the appropriate systems and the appropriate methods of focusing your will to obtain your desires in this material universe. And man, I hope you're obtaining your desires. I hope you guys had a fisting Easter. I hope your Easter was filled with fists deep in orifices, orgies. I hope you guys were chomping on mushrooms and celebrating Easter in the way it was meant to be celebrated, in the groves and forests of the world, drunk on mushroom concoctions with your fists firmly buried deep in a friend's asshole or mouth or vagina, depending on your predilection and depending on how the goddess Ishtar has directed your fist. Hello to you, all you children who may be stuck in wells right now. I'm praying for you. I hope that you are pulled out of the well. Don't worry, you'll get on national news. That's one of the coolest things. When you're at this point, if you're a 9-year-old stuck in a well, you're probably going to end up being a correspondent on Fox. It's a surefire road to fame, getting stuck in a well. It's one of the sad things. Somebody posted this. Marilyn Manson being interviewed by Bill O'Reilly, and Marilyn Manson just pretty much eviscerated O'Reilly just by saying the truth. And the truth is that the news has created this situation where teenagers feel like the only way they can really be heard is by walking into their schools and shooting people or doing some violent, awful act. The news is the great vampire, one of the great vampires. The news is one of the great polluters of the universe, a psychic polluter, where they have installed at the helm of these things the public speakers, the mouthpiece for these foul salesmen of cars and pharmaceuticals, are these weird trollops, these conservative tramps, these painted freaks who are like, I don't know what, they're like 3 steps up from strippers, but with less integrity. They sit up there and they vomit out this negative energy. They talk about old people getting their faces chewed off by pit bulls, and they vomit out bad information about all kinds of awful things happening in the world. It's like, they speak the language of farts. They speak the language of psychic farts. And if you wake up in the morning and watch the news, what are you doing? It would be better and healthier for you to wake up in the morning and stick your head in a bag of elephant farts and breathe before you go to work than to watch the news. You don't need to watch that shit. It doesn't affect you at all. 99% of you are not affected by the news at all, unless it's the fucking weather. And you live in a tornado area, you don't need to watch the news. It's not going to help you to know about a North fucking Korean missile launch. It's not going to help you to know about some fucking bomber who went crazy in Amsterdam. It's not going to help you to know about a wild shooter who's shot up some people in this part of the world or that part of the world. It's not going to help you to know about a man who was smashed between a train and a wall, and his family came and said goodbye to him before they moved the train, and his entrails came pouring out of the bottom part of his body like old sausage out of a bag. That doesn't help you. You know what helps you? I'll tell you what helps you. Getting a fucking maid. That'll help you. Get a maid. Don't get the news. Get a maid. Get your shit clean. Clean your fucking apartment. Clean your house. Why is your house so disgusting? Also, take a fucking shower, man. I know you're depressed. I get it. I can feel your depression. I know the weight of the world is heavy on your heart. And I know that your instincts, I know the animal part of yourself is telling you just to curl up and die in your stinky mattress. Oily, stinky, jizz-stained mattress surrounded by McDonald's bags and cigarette butts. But you've got to overcome the animal part of yourself. The animal part of yourself will just drag you deep, deep into the harbor of sorrows. And it'll hold you there until you put a gun in your mouth and separate the back of your head from your neck. So that's not a friend. That's a vampire. It must be tamed, flogged, whipped into submission. And the way to start cleaning your fucking house. You just have to do things you don't want to do for 3 days. If you do things you don't want to do for 3 days, at the end of the 3 days, you'll be almost a new person. You're always 3 days away from a new life. Don't smoke for 3 days. Don't shoot heroin for 3 days. Don't be a peeping Tom for 3 days. Whatever the weird thing that your animal body is making you do, don't do it for 3 days. And see how you feel at the end of the 3 days. Before you can become a true magician, you've got to build your temple. You've got to build your magical space. You got to clean the fucking temple. You got to get a maid. You got to get somebody to help you. You have to summon a maid in the same way that you summon spirits to grant your wishes. Summon a fucking maid to clean your goddamn house. That's your first magical spell. I challenge you to do that. Summon a maid at $60 fucking bucks. You spent that much in the bar last night. People who get upset at you for... Sometimes if you tell people, yeah, I get a maid twice a month, they raise their eyebrow at you. Oh, what are your daddy warbucks? You get a maid? Yeah, I get a fucking maid. It's $60, $70, however much it is. Even if it was $100, it's $100 fucking bucks. Saves me a day's worth of work. My house gets the sweet polish on it. There's nothing better than walking into your house and being buffeted by the smell of bleach because your house is clean, as opposed to walking in your house and being buffeted by the stinky-year-old dishes and your filthy socks and your faff and your depression filth wafting out into the world. You can't have friends over because your house is messy. Every time you have friends over, you've got to apologize, and they look at you because they know you're sick. Come on. Grab the reins of the horse. Pull those fucking reins and rise out of the muck of your depression and have some fun. There's nothing more fun than walking around in a world of zombies if you're not one, because zombies are fun to play around with. That's the thing. People don't have enough fun with zombies. In these zombie movies, everyone just kills them. Nobody tries to train them. Nobody puts lays on them or funny outfits. Why doesn't that happen? Maybe it happens in later episodes of The Walking Dead, which I'm addicted to. Okay, now some business. The Duncan Trussell Family Hour. This episode of the Duncan Trussell Family Hour has been sponsored by Sure Design T-shirts. Now, this is a t-shirt company that exists in Thailand, and it's run by a really cool guy, and I say he's really cool because he listens to my podcast. And if you listen to my podcast, you're automatically one of the coolest people in the room, if not on the planet. He sent me some of these t-shirts, and I fucking love them. They're made of this, he calls them unique crinkly cotton, is what he calls them. I don't know what it is, but it just feels good. They're badass. They feel really good. It's that like great soft kind of like vintage feel so that your poor sensitive skin won't be irritated by normal cotton. This is soft cotton. This is like the cotton that would happen if you plucked the wings off a fairy and sewed it together into a shirt. And the designs on these shirts are really psychedelic and spiritual with Buddhas and mushrooms and Sanskrit writing. The way I think the process that they make these t-shirts is they eat a bowl of mushrooms in the morning so that they can see the spirits that frolic in the forests of Thailand. And then they capture these forests using interdimensional netting, bring them into the shop and squeeze the gnomes and trolls and dwarfs that they've captured in a vice, to the point where they projectile vomit beautiful colors and designs onto these very soft t-shirts that are made of fairy wings that have been plucked off of the finest fairies that you can capture in Thailand. So they're wonderful, wonderful shirts, and I love them very much. And you can get 10% off these shirts if you go to suredesigntshirts.com and put my name, Duncan, in the checkout. And there's going to be a link in the Go Deeper section when you go to duncantrussell.com. They also have hoodies, and they've got yoga clothing and accessories. They got yoga clothing, so if you want to go and look fucking cool in the yoga studio instead of wearing that nasty, disgusting fucking old shirt that you always wear that stinks, what are you doing? How are you going to meet a yogini? How are you going to meet a hot yoga person if you're wearing that nasty mustard-stained Dallas Cowboys t-shirt in a fucking yoga studio? Are you kidding? You're going to wear that shit? You might as well just go in there covered in diarrhea. You're never going to meet anybody. You're not going to find your wife at a yoga studio if you're wearing a fucking Insane Clown Posse t-shirt, pal. Get one of these fucking awesome Sure Design t-shirts with a soft cotton, and guaranteed you're going to be followed out of that yoga studio like the Pied Piper of yoga, with a trail of very flexible, in-shape spiritual women following you back to your yurt. So come on, motherfuckers, go to Sure Design T-shirts. This guy listens to the podcast. He contacted me to advertise for him. Don't let him down. Buy one of these shirts. They ship from Thailand. How awesome is that? You get a fucking crinkly yoga shirt that came all on a boat from Thailand. That probably was housing who knows how many kilos of fine opium. Maybe some of it will fall into the package, but it won't. So that's not... I shouldn't have said that. There's no opium involved in this at all. Do people even smoke opium anymore? Okay, so there's the commercial. SureDesignT-shirts.com. SureDesign T-shirts.com. Go. You could even fucking call them. 773-770-8951. Buy a shirt. And big news from the Duncan Trussell Family Shop. We've started shipping the Little Hobo Chaos posters to Canada. Now, these posters, we're almost halfway out of these fucking things. We're only printing 666 of them. So if you want one, you better get one now. These amazing posters show me getting possessed by the chaos spirit of my puppet, Lil Hobo. And these posters have been imbued with chaos energy. And when all 666 of these are hanging in the torture chambers, dungeons, prison cells, and senator offices all over the world, they will create a web of chaos, which will open a portal, bringing into the world an event of such powerful novelty that we might not even know it happened because our nervous system isn't advanced enough to detect it. But on the other hand, we might know it happened. I don't know. Don't believe me? See what happens when all 666 of these sons of bitches are hanging all over the planet. And for everyone who's been donating, thank you very much. Listen, you guys, just the fact that you are listening to my raspy, rambling, possibly schizophrenic voice fills me with such bizarre pleasure and joy that I wake up in the morning smiling and muttering in some weird dream language that I can never remember after a couple of hours. I can feel you out there. We are one entity. We are one thing, connected through the interwebs and evolving towards a point where all of us merge together into a technological singularity that will allow us to spread throughout the universe, connecting all the planets, black holes, quasars, and stars into one gigantic podcast, which will be listened to by Jesus. And hopefully it'll make him smile. But until that point, if you like this podcast, why not send some green energy into the Duncan Trussell Family Hour? Blast us with some of that. If you like us more than Starbucks, then send a couple of bucks our way. And if you don't want to donate, that's fine. You don't have to donate. This podcast will always be here. An ontological extrusion from the chaos field into our material universe, which is growing every day in magnitude, growing every day in gravity, and pulling into it the greatest minds and people that exist on this planet from the past, present, and future. And if you're listening right now, you're one of them. And I bow to you. And I bow to your ancestors. And I bow to the monkeys that eventually, if you go back far enough, humped their way into humanity. Thanks, monkeys. Today's guest is, I'm sure you already know who it is because his fucking name is on the tweet that I tweeted. He's an insanely funny comedian. He's also one of the most interesting people that I know. And he's somebody who is a master storyteller. You could sit and listen to this guy tell stories for hours. He's brilliant. He's an icon. And I feel really lucky and grateful to have met him and that he's a friend of mine. So everyone, please send your psychic love energy blasting into the consciousness of my dear friend, Joey Coco Diaz, a.k.a. Mad Flavor. Please welcome him to the Duncan Trussell Family Hour.
It's the Duncan Trussell Family Hour.
Do a sound check. Let me hear you talk. Right into the mic.
Oh.
Sorry, man, this is not a professional operation.
No, it's a beautiful operation.
There we go. I am here with Joey Coco Diaz, a.k.a. Mad Flavor. What's up, Diaz?
What's up, buddy? Thank you very much for having me on your podcast. We had a nice breakfast.
Yeah.
We discussed certain topics. Now we're going to fucking jump right in. What's up?
What's up? Yeah, well, the when I was talking to Diaz yesterday, one of the things that you have one of you and I mean this is the highest compliment I can give a person. You have told me shit that has spooked me more than any other human on the planet. You have this talent of telling me stories when I'm really, really high that scares the fucking shit out of me, man. And you only do it when I get really fucking high, and then you start talking about Santeria, or you start talking about the dangers of black magic, or you start talking about, but it only happens like when I'm at the really high place. And one of those things I've never forgotten is you told me this story about some kind of fucking cult or a group of people that kills you, but before they kill you, they sing a song to you. What is that?
Okay, well, let's start it from the beginning, just so we know where we're at. I'm Cuban. I was born in Cuba in 1963, but my parents took me out of Cuba in 66, and I moved to New Jersey, whatever. New York City, whatever. When you're Cuban and you live in these houses, you know, as you get older, you notice certain things. And I was Catholic. By trade, I was Catholic. Day one, kindergarten, Catholic, whatever. My dad passed at 3. And just after my dad passed, my mom would always talk to me and say little things like, you got to dress nice. Your dad's watching you.
Right.
Always remember how you behave. Your father's always watching you. And I'm like, what the fuck is this crazy bitch talking about? My father's dead. And then one night when we lived on Riverside Drive on 89th Street, we had a really nice condo. This was like a really high-level white people building. We just happened to live there. We were Cubans, but my mom had bookmaking money. And the kitchen was very weird. The kitchen had like these 4 walls, I can't say it had a window to the outside. I'm sorry, I'm a little stoned. It had a kitchen, but it had a window, but the outside really wasn't an outside. It was like a patio.
Yeah.
It was on the 11th floor, whatever the fuck we lived on there, you know. And just one night I went in and I said, Ma, for some reason or another, I know we live in the 11th floor, you know, I seen a spirit out there. And she goes, what did he look like? What was it? And I told him, and he goes, that was your father.
Whoa.
And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? What are you talking about, my father? I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And I seen her light a cigar, and I seen her put a glass of water out. And then on Mondays, whenever she
Wait, what do you mean light a cigar?
Like she would light a cigar for his spirit, like get a glass of water. And I always asked her, I mean, why do you put a glass of water in that? And she would say, that's to give the spirit light. And she would always, on Mondays is a big spirit day. Mondays are when the spirits, you honor the spirits. Like a lot of people honor spirits on All Souls Day or whatever. My mother honored the spirits every Monday. And whatever she cooked, she put a dish out. For my stepdad, for my father, she put a dish out. And every Monday she'd put a glass out. And she'd put a prayer. You know, my mother had a bar. And my mother's bar was opened up by her and my dad, who were kid sweethearts and moved to the United States. So when my dad died, it was a big shock to my mother. My mother loved him. So my mother had superstitions. My mother's very superstitious. Her song with him was I Want to Be Around by, you know, the fucking Italian guy. Not Sinatra, but the other guy, Tony Bennett.
Okay.
So when she first walked into the bar, she would always put that song on. She didn't give a fuck what was going on. The DEA could be there with Kennedy to talk to her. She didn't give a fuck. Hold on, I got to put I Want to Be Around on. And she'd light up, and then he had a, no. So, till this day at 49, every Monday, I still put it on. It's on YouTube. I Want to Be Around. It's a beautiful fucking jam. So she put it on. She had a big portrait of him on the top, and she'd clean the bar, throw water on the floor everywhere to get the bad spirits out, as she said. And in the corner, she'd have a little table, and in that table, she had a picture of my dad. She'd give him his favorite drink, which was scotch. She put a cigar over it. I don't know if he smoked cigars. She put glasses of water and blah, 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 blah. And that was it. So it was a very spiritual house. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
I didn't know where we were getting at. And then I went into the kindergarten, and it was always the same. Every year on the February 26th, she would have a big-time mass for my dad at a Catholic church and on the west side. She would give the priest a couple yards, and she'd bring bottles, and we'd drink and eat.
Give the priest a couple what?
Yards, a couple hundred, 300-400, and she'd fucking get bottles of booze, and we'd drink in the church, and we'd have a little party, and she'd do that out of respect for my father. Even after she remarried my mother, she did this. She was like, he was a different kind of spirit, and this is what he wanted. So she stressed it. Now, at the age of 5, I started getting really sick. I'm very sickly. My skin, I have a lot of skin diseases, and my lungs are weak. As you could see, I still breathe fucked up. So I kept getting into this pattern of being very sick for years, just sickly. So after you get sick like that, you know, a lot of Spanish religions, they take you to the doctor, and you go to a doctor, and they give you whatever pills or whatever. In those days, they just said, listen, he's got to eat more, his immune system. So my mother took me to see a Santeria guy. Or I think my mother had gone on her own, a lady, and then she came back and she goes, listen, the Santeria lady wants to see you. I'm like, fuck you. You know, I'm a single. My mom at the time was single. I was 5, 6, and I was crazy. I'm a crazy fucking spit kid, so she would come home and say, I want you to go see this Santeria guy, and fuck you. I don't, you know, that's not for me. That shit you do with the cigars. I looked at it then, but I didn't really respect it. Like if they put change on there, I'd steal the change or whatever. You know, you don't fucking know when you're a kid. You have to be shown, you know. And then I went into Harlem, 148th Street, and I talked to this lady, and she spoke to me, and it was kind of spooky. She spoke of these saints and stuff, but I felt her warmth. She was a mom, you know, and I felt her warmth, and she said, do you want to sleep over from time to time? And I would go up there, and she'd, you know, get coconuts and chop them up and grind them down and then make something and then put it on my head. And she'd pray, and then another time I went up there, she goes, I'm going to kill an animal for you, you know. And
wow.
And I, you know, she'd get a saint, and it's usually the people that want these, Alegwa. Alegwa is the guy that lives at your door in Ogun. Ogun is in charge of anything machinery. Ogun was like Duncan Trussell. Ogun is a very intelligent man.
Right.
And Ogun would go into the mountains to figure out how to make the world better. and he hides. You don't want this motherfucker to hide because that's when it gets ugly. You want him out in the real world.
Right.
But that in Santeria religion, they put those at the door and they guard you. They're the metal of saint, of iron. Ogun is a warrior saint. He's Saint Michael. He's who beat fucking the G's devil into. That's Ogun.
Yeah.
But he's very heady, and he's not just a fucking muscle head. And then Elegua is a little boy who also guards.
What's the name?
Elegua. You have to put him outside. He lives outside. He'll live in your patio. People can't see him. You have to bury him and put little candies around him and little toys because he's a kid, you know. And then so I went. She introduced me to all these saints. And she would tell me stories, but I was a fucking killer at that age. I didn't give a fuck. My mom had a bar.
Yeah.
You know, I was spoiled.
Yeah.
I went up to 105. I lived on 88th Street during the week, and on the weekends I went to 148th Street, and I ran with these Irish Puerto Rican kids. They showed me my first dead body. You know, I mean, I'm West.
Tell me about that.
No, it was, you know, when you're a kid, you know. Like
no, I don't know that when you're a fucking kid. That's not one of my childhood memories.
I'm in New York one day, like when I'm 8 or 7, and I used to play on 148th Street, and there were these Puerto Rican kids, the Cedeños, and, you know, there was these Irish kids, the Ryans. I still remember these kids. And one day we're hanging out, and they're like, dog, they shot some motherfucker. Like, they just shot somebody down by West Side Highway. This is where you go up and down on the west side in New York. These are the days where there was no CSI. You know, a body would be there. Have you ever seen videos of New York from the 70s?
Yeah.
It's filthy.
Yes.
New York City in 1970 was filthy. There's a video on YouTube called Our Latin Thing. It's the Funny All-Stars, this label out of New York. They did this film, and I always look at the streets. They were just filled with papers. New York was really dirty in the early 70s.
Yeah.
And New York was always on a one-day delay. You know what I'm saying? And I'll never forget that one day I went up there on a Saturday, and they're like, let's go play stickball. Let's go play. Whoa! Before we go play stickball, you want to see a dead body?
It's like Stand By Me in New York.
And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Yeah, we walked down under a building to a train, and there was a guy there under fucking weeds that no sight. You know, if I'm lying to you, if I say I still remember the body and what it looked like,
right.
I'm lying to you. I never forgot the smell.
Oh.
I never forgot the smell. It had probably been like 2 days old, 3 days old. And I'll never forget that you could smell it 30 yards away.
Ooh.
The smell of a dead body is something that just...
Is it like the smell of a dead animal body? Is it the same smell?
30 times. You ever take a shit by mistake that's really good in a weird bathroom that has like weird ergonomics? Like what you ever do comedy and people come off and they go, oh, the effects of the wall is weird in here.
Yeah.
You know, you bombed. You bombed. Stop lying on the system. Stop lying about the system and the electrical. Oh, the speaker system is... Shut the fuck up. You bombed. Stop blaming it. But every once in a while, you eat a lot of vegetables and you go home that night, you take a shit, and there's no water, so the shit breaks in half before it hits. And it is tear gas. It is something that you get mad at yourself. You're like, that came out of me. I really got to change my lifestyle. You light the candles. You wipe your ass. You take a shower. But nothing, I mean nothing could fucking replace that. It's just a horrible, horrible smell. That's what that body smelled like. Like it was just something that I had never smelled before.
Yeah, man, I've heard that. I've never seen it. I mean, I watched.
Oh.
There's a show that I can't. I'll never forget. It's I can't remember the name of it. I think you run on Netflix, but it's a documentary about people who die alone in Los Angeles and who have no family and what they do with their bodies, like how they deal with the most lonely people in the world who just die by themselves in an apartment. And I remember they go into one of these apartments and the guy's describing the smell or like talking about how bad the smell is, and he said something. It's just like the worst BO you've ever smelled, or just some kind of, I don't know. It's a smell I hope I never want to smell that smell. That's a terrible smell. I know what burning corpses smell like. I've smelled cremation. It smells like hamburgers. It's not unpleasant.
This is something. The smell of a dead body is something that just you get taken by it. Like you're like, oh, like once you run into that first ascent, your body automatically, you want to run.
Yeah.
Like it's like you want to, what is that fucking smell?
Well, it's got to be, I mean, it's got to be in your genes to hate that smell more than the smell of even other death. Because if way back in the day when you smelled that, you should run because it means you're in a place where humans are getting fucking killed. No. Awful. So they take you. So you were hanging out with these fucking kids, take you down there to see a dead body. You're hanging out with a Santeria priestess. Would she be called a priestess? Is that what?
No. So I see the kids, and that's it. That's just part of what was going on up in 148. 148 was a great neighborhood for me growing up, and her name was Beva, the lady I used to visit, and I would spend like a night with her and hang out. And she had an older daughter that was 20 years older than me at the time, hot, real hot, and she made it easier. And then one day my mother comes home and she goes, listen, man, they want you to make saint. They want you to actually put Santeria into your heart, into your life. And I go, what do I got to do? And they go, you got to shave your head. Wow. You got to dress in white for a year. And I'm like, that's out. I was 7 at the time, but my body couldn't take it. You could see the bones on my shoulders. This is really bad. I have really bad tonsils. At the time, like my tonsils would swell up and they'd have to put me on respirators to breathe and they couldn't figure out what it was. And my mother fed me and I couldn't gain weight and I wouldn't eat. You could see bones and shit. And we had money. So my mother goes, you're going to have to make this Santeria. But it was weird. They worked me into it slowly. And I talked to the lady and I fell in love with Beva. Beva was my godmother. I liked her husband. I liked her daughter. I liked where she lived. I liked how she treated me. Then they introduced me to this other lady named, can't remember what her name, Rosaba at the time. They were both Cuban, dark-skinned woman. And she was very warm to me also. She had no children. And when you make saint, okay, you have 9 saints. Each of them represent something different. Chango is the god of warrior. Obatala, which is the saint they put in my head, is a thinker. He controls heads. He controls days and nights. He controls what your thoughts are. You know, I'm very heady. Obatala's son they can't stay in the house because they'll go crazy. If somebody goes crazy in their mind, that's Obatala. That pilot that went crazy, that's Obatala's son because they live in their heads.
Wow.
Obatala is the father of human creation. He's the one that made the molds. God sent him first with a cat, a chain, and dirt. He threw dirt down, and that built up all the land that you see. But while he was building the land, they gave him another assignment to build little molds to be human. But he drank white wine and he got drunk, and those are people that are fucked up today. So that's why when you see people with a short arm or whatever, they're all Obatala's followers because he always said he breathed life on them. Then you have the women saints, which are the ones that scare the fuck out of me.
Why?
The women saints are because they're controlled. They're your central nervous system. The biggest woman is Yemaya. She controls the ocean. Ochun controls the rivers and the lakes. And then there's another one that controls the undercurrent of the ocean.
Wow.
And that's the motherfucker that'll take you like that. There's just one word and you're done. And then there's the other woman controls the cemeteries. So do you understand how important women are in your life? The men are warrior saints and they kill and they hunt. But the women control the central nervous system, which is our lakes. We can't do nothing without water.
Right.
We can never do nothing without water.
Aren't we 80% water?
80% water. So she controls the water. She was my mother's guardian saint.
What was her name?
Yemaya. She's my mother. And then there's Ochun. That's the mother of, she's gold. That book keeps sticking out. That's why I had to mention her. It's gold. She's the one of love. She's the one that you pray for if you want to have children and stuff like that. Oya controls the cemeteries. Oya is the one that decides when you go, motherfucker. She decides. She runs the cemetery. Her and Yemaya are sisters, and they played games on each other when they were kids. So Yemaya used to control the cemeteries, and Oya used to control the ocean. And one day the sister brought her up and said, look at that beautiful house I lived in. And she goes, I'll trade you. When they traded, they realized that was a cemetery, so they don't talk anymore. The sisters are at war. You can't even feed them in the same room together.
Wow.
That's how much war they're at. Sorry about that, Duncan.
No problem. No. So this is fascinating. So you've got
very fascinating.
You have a spirit who is assigned to the ocean.
Right.
You have a spirit
spirits that control everything.
But I want to talk about these two. You have they're sisters. One sister controls the ocean. One sister controls the cemeteries.
Yes.
One's death, and the other one is what? What's the? How would you sum it up? What's the oceans? Birth.
It's life.
Oh, it's life and death. So you have the yin. It's the yin yang. It's the polarities. They're
very interesting.
Yeah, cool.
And they sat me down. They said, we want you to make saint, and it's a 7-day process. You have to sit in your room. Now, this goes deeper, okay? And we've discussed this before. There's a thing called ABQ. And it's not. That's what it's called in the Cuban religion and the African religion, and in different religions, it's called everything else. And people have discussed this before. Abiku is what Bruce Lee was. Abiku is what Elvis was. Abiku is anybody who has a sibling that died at birth.
Wow.
Okay? You owe now. You owe.
So, you mean if you have if you're twins?
If you're twins, if you had a brother who died at birth or something,
even if you weren't born at the same time.
Even if you weren't born at the same time, you're Abiku. I don't know what the fucking prescription is.
Right.
But when I was born, my dad died, which means I'm Abiku. The reason why they wanted to make me saint, because they said that my head would also take my mother's head because of our signs. So that's why they had to make me saint.
What does that mean? Your head would take you?
Abiku would eventually kill my mother.
Oh, I see.
Okay, would eventually take my mother. Bruce Lee was an Abiku. That's why he disappeared at 33.
Your dad died when you were
3.
3.
And my mother died when she was 47, when I was 15. But my mother had a boy who died 2 years before I died, or a girl. And it always disrupted the house.
You mean your sister?
My sister. I have a sister in Cuba, but in between us, we had a kid who died.
I see.
In between us, she lost a child. I don't know whether it was a boy or a girl. She lost a child early in the trimester. And ever since that, it fucked up her flow. So to stop that flow, they said you have to put saint into your son's head. And at first, I was very fucking against it.
Yes.
Listen, when you're...
Well, I mean, a year wearing a white suit and a
white shirt.
head.
You have to wear white clothes,
See.
white T-shirt, whatever. But I was against it. I was halfway religious on Catholicism. This fucking skinny guy died for his sins. What fucking sin?
Right.
I was still confused by Catholicism. I'm still confused by this thing that my mother's doing with the saint putting something out for the fucking spirits.
Yeah.
And now I'm confused by this fucking Santeria stuff. So I got all these things going in my head, and I'm trying to get my shit together at 6. You follow me? I'm trying to eat lunch and have a lunchbox. So finally at 7, whatever, they come to me and they go, you have to make saint. And I'm like, I don't fucking know. When you're a kid, you don't believe in dick. Okay, you know how hard it is to go to CCD on Fridays? I don't have to tell you about, the Catholic religion for you to get the cookie on Friday.
Yeah.
Because basically there's 7 sacraments. And you have to, it's baptism, communion, fucking confirmation, anointing of the sick. There's all these 7, marriage, whatever the fuck it is. And, you have to go through these fucking hurdles, so they say. We don't even believe those. I didn't believe that shit.
I didn't.
I didn't believe that. So here comes the night. It's November of 71, and they take me to the Bronx to do this saint. Number one, they got to take you to the ocean. They got to get the water flow, and they got to hit you for as many buckets of water on the head, cleanse you. It's like a birthday.
Baptism.
I did it November 28th or something like that. They had to break the fucking ice. So I start running in the Bronx. I'm like, get these black people away from me. They're really black Cubans. My mother's got to run. They got to catch me. You got to sit down. They shave your head. Then they do a bunch of other things.
So wait, they've got you at the ocean.
At the ocean.
At 7.
At night.
At night in November, and they're dumping buckets of water, icy ocean water on
whatever it is. We just picked it in November. Our situation was we had to make it immediately.
Wow.
So,
Are they chanting while this is happening? What are they
chanting, singing songs. They've already cut a chicken probably by then, cut a goat's head off and shit. So the first night, you're basically getting accepted into the religion. Do I remember a lot of it? Yes and no. It was traumatizing as a kid. But when somebody tells you to close your eyes as a kid, you always leave one open. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
It's just, so it's pretty, and it's all night. So here I am, 7, pulling my first all-nighter. You have to stay up all night. I remember falling, and they're carrying me, and I'm tired. And they're like, no, you got to finish this. And you finish at 6, and then you eat. And that whole week, you can't eat nothing that they don't kill.
Right.
So you eat everything they kill. All the chickens, all the goats. That was, and then on Friday, you have to sit in this throne. So let's say if I made my saint in this house, they'd probably make it in the kitchen and use all this, close the windows, and then I would stay in that room for a week. Since my mom and I were twins in the saint. A lot of people make saint by themselves. I made it with my mother. We were twins in Santeria.
Yes.
We were twins.
So the same time that you were getting the ritual, she was getting the ritual at the same place?
She was getting Yemaya, and I was getting Obatala.
Okay.
All right, so we left there. We went on with our lives. I'll never forget that you have to wear a hat for a year. For 3 months, until your hair grows out. You have to wear a hat to cover the center.
What kind of hat?
Anything you want, as long as it's white.
Right.
And I remember that we went to the school, and then my mother explained to the principal why I had to wear a hat, and the principal was like, no. And I remember my mom going in her purse, and 10 minutes later, I had a hat on. I could wear a hat. My mother paid the fucking principal. And then we got to do something different. Then my mother met a man who she knew since she was a kid. And my mother started dating him, and then he moved into the house.
Right.
And he's what you call an abacoa. In small words, it's called a ñañigo. Cuban had a society in the 40s and 50s, African-built, Nigerian-built, that was transferred. It's a men's club. It's not a men's club. It's a men's secret society.
Right.
And part of that society is that they're longshoremen. They work with the water, but they're also very vigilant, and they dedicate their lives to Saint Lazaro. Saint Lazaro is a Catholic saint that has two crutches.
Lazarus was the first person that Jesus brought back from the dead.
Right, and he had leprosy.
I know what you're talking about. I've seen
leprosy.
I've seen the candle of him, and there's always a dog next to his.
Two dogs. Okay.
Yeah.
They dedicate their life to Saint Lazaro. Their color's purple. Now, here's what comes with that. Saint Lazaro was hard. So what comes with that is it's a man's society. So they're very vigilant and vigilante. Nothing goes unpunished.
Right.
And those are the people that if you're like, oh, my God, like if you come to one of their houses and you're like, oh, my God, they will take you out the ocean. They will sing to you and then slice you up into fucking pieces. Okay, those are the abacoas. They don't believe, and I'm sorry I have to say this on here. It's a men's society. They don't like gay shit. They don't like eating pussy. They don't do nothing that compromises their manhood.
Eating pussy does not compromise
because if they eat pussy, that means they'll suck anything.
That's not true.
Hey, these guys are men. These guys, they don't giggle. There's no
they're just hard.
Very hard,
super
very
masculine.
loving. No, that's the confusion. It's a thought process. It's a way of life. Like I'll show you an album cover of one of the baddest motherfucking ñañigos. His name was Patato Totico. So was Juan, my mother's boyfriend, who became my stepfather. His name was Juan Tuero. And in Scarface, when you see Scarface, in the beginning of Scarface, he grabs his hand and he says to him, "What's that tattoo on your hand?"
Yeah.
That's sort of it. Abacoas always have something in there. But their main tattoo is on their forearm. And it's an arrow with zeros and X's in between the lines of the arrow. And then on their left shoulder, on their right shoulder, or somewhere on their body, they'll have a Saint Lazarus.
Yeah.
Okay? And they dedicate their life to Saint Lazarus. Juan couldn't be in a room if there was a gay man in a room. Juan can't let another man touch his head. Juan couldn't have a gay barber touch his head. Juan couldn't have a lot of things going on. You start to believe it. Juan would not let an aorta go by. When I talk to you about an aorta go by, like he would,
what?
He would not let anything slip.
Oh, I see.
If you said to him, "Hey, he's chubby," like the way we are, you say to him, he'd stop and go, "What did you just say?" And you might get a beating, but his main weapon of choice was a straight razor. And they slice your ass. They don't kill you. They don't beat you. They don't smack you. They hold you down and slice your ass to prove to you that you're a fucking weak fuck. And that's their mentality. Plus,
they slice your
ass with a straight razor. Juan's weapon of choice was a straight razor.
So but this is you slicing someone's ass.
Yes, ass cheek.
But you got to understand, this doesn't just mean
this goes back to old times.
No, I'm saying
you fuck up. They hold you down and they take a straight razor and they slice your ass cheek with it.
Once.
You got to go to the hospital and get stitched up.
And then you can't sit down for.
But you'll think of them all the fucking time. And Juan was fucking hard and fucking crazy. And, my mother hooked up with him and we started, and we're a family. But this is what was fucked up about my house. It's two different religions. it's two different type brotherhoods. So even though he was with my mom and my mom was into Santeria, Juan was still a fucking Ñáñigo, which is an Abuqua, Abukua. They dedicate their life to this guy. Like if Juan ever had a problem, he has to dress in purple for a year. Okay, because they dedicate their life to Saint Lazarus.
Right.
You know, hey, listen, man, this is just like any other fucking Islamic fundamentalist religion.
Sure.
Oh, every religion has a good and a bad. And I loved Juan very much growing up. But I knew 3 Ñáñigos, and they were very much the same cut. They're like lieutenants in the fucking Marines. There's no games.
Right.
There's no playing. There's no like Red Band would last 10 minutes around Juan.
He'd get his ass cut.
Stabbed him. He would kill Juan. Juan would kill him. There wouldn't even be a slice.
Juan would just kill Red Band.
Yeah, we would just shoot him in the leg and let him bleed to death. That's one. Seriously, I wish this is why I don't fuck around a lot sometimes because that was his mentality. You're a man. Act like a fucking man.
Yeah.
Okay? You want to be a kid or a girl? Go giggle with girls. Act like a fucking man. Talk to me right. Stand up straight. That's how they are.
Man, that's an intense new boyfriend to live. That's an intense new father figure for you, man. So this guy comes into the house, you've been living with your mom, you're kind of sickly, and all of a sudden you get this super masculine figure in there who's not just masculine, but he's dangerous. He's
lethal dangerous. But I needed a father.
Right.
I needed a man in my life because I was going to end up the same guy. You follow me? I had women. I had a mother that was great, but I could get up right now in your house, pick up that stereo and smash it. It would be funny. Right. I needed a man in my house. Yeah. I needed a man in my life. My mom knew the consequences with this guy. My mom knew that this guy, he rocked and rolled. I mean, when I met him, he was in prison for bookmaking though. He was a big time bookmaker. So he came out of jail. Him and my mother dated for a few months. And then he was in Green Haven in Sing Sing. So my mother would bring me up to see him. And in those days, they weren't cages how they are now, like at visitation. So my mother would put the records of the bank that he ran in my pocket. She would pass me over to him. He'd take the records out of my pocket with the numbers. It was that easy.
Shit.
Everybody was in on it. We were in He was in Sing Sing. Then he was in Green Haven for a while. Get out. He was such a big numbers guy that at the time, I don't know if you know this, numbers is bolita. It's a way of gambling in New York. It's a Cuban thing that Santo Traficante started in Cuba in the 40s. It's the last 3 numbers of something. So they take different tracks so they can't be fixed. So for 3 months of the year, they bet out of Aqueduct. For 3 months out of the year, they bet out of Freehold. And for 3 months out of the year, they get the number out of some other track. And it's the last 3 numbers of the total mutual hold, what the track made for the day.
Right.
So if the track made 1,600,383, that's the number of the last 3 numbers. So there's no cheating. You can't trick it.
383.
Right. Trick it around.
Was it like a lot? So it's like a lottery or something? It's
a lottery. So $2 gets you $500. $2 gets you $5,000.
Wow.
So what killed Bolita was the lottery, the state lottery. But that didn't come till the late 70s.
Right.
So in the beginning 70s, my mother was a millionaire from her bank because they were making $25,000 a day on numbers.
Gee, so your mom was in
a numbers bank way before my father.
A numbers bank is what it's called.
There's bookies and there's a numbers bank. My mother was the bank. And what it was every nationality that's an immigrant or whatever has hopes and dreams. So what they did was my mother would start these banks in Puerto Rican areas, Spanish areas in New York. And she would open up a candy store and she would have little candies in there and a book of dreams. And if you have a book, let's say tonight you call me tomorrow and you go, Diaz, I had the weirdest fucking dream.
Yes.
I had a dream that me and you went to Bulgaria and we went fucking ice skiing. There's a place you could go and get a book and go ice skiing in Bulgaria, get the numbers, and then you put a prefix in front of it. It's called the Book of Numbers.
So it's like a dream interpretation book, but it translates it into
numbers.
Damn!
Nigga trying to hit me for my paper. You see what I'm saying? So then you go down and you bet these numbers. So if you bet $5 on a number.
Where would you go to bet?
Anywhere. 7-Eleven.
Oh, so it's that you could just go to
It's illegal, but we made it legal because we pay the cops off. So what you have is a bodega. You have a place where they sell potato chips in a newspaper.
Yeah.
Whatever. So if the cops come in, oh, what a nice place you have. But really, it's a bookmaking operation.
Got it.
So he comes up to you, he buys a soda, and he goes, $3.03, $2, $6.55, $2, $8.01, $2. Boom. You take it, put it in a drawer, and every hour I would come by, take the cash, and bring it back to the bank.
Wow.
You follow me?
Yeah.
Well, I was too young at the time, but even then, I still
When you
did.
say bank, do you mean you had your own bank or a real
My
bank?
mother has an apartment.
So you had a safe with cash in it.
We have an apartment that we move every week in an area. So let's say our bank, let's say our bodega is the Comedy Store.
Okay.
We would get, and the Comedy Store ranges from Fountain to La Cienega to the back of the store. We would move apartments once a month because you never want to let people know where the bank is. So we had a guy on call that would get us apartments. Plus, we would keep moving.
Okay.
So we have a bank now, and in the bank
Is this before your mom met your?
Yeah, way before. My mom was doing this in the 50s, even before I came out of a nasty little pussy.
And is this before you had they put a saint in you? Is this? Before?
Yeah, my mother was a millionaire.
So this
from
is
numbers.
this is your childhood.
This is my child. This is my mother's child.
Moving from apartment to apartment.
No. We didn't move as a house. No.
Oh, I see.
We were set people.
I got
the
you.
neighborhood. You don't do business where you live.
I got you.
So let's say we live here.
Yeah.
Our business is in fucking Comedy Store.
I got you.
We would move apartments. That's where we don't move. We're not fucking. What do you think? We're fucking pirates.
No, it sounded terrible.
No, my mother lived on 205 West 88th Street. Next time you go to 88th Street in New York, which you'll move in 2 weeks, I'll take you up there. Take a look at that neighborhood. Wasn't no spics. There was no yams. Cool. It was white kids.
Cool.
My mom loved white kids. She didn't want to live in that's why we didn't live in Miami.
All right.
That's why. My mom wanted to hide in between white people around us. You follow me?
Yeah.
So we had the numbers bank. He had his own numbers bank, but he was in Jersey. Let me explain to you how corrupt the system is. If you get caught with numbers in New York, it's a ticket. So I would call you and go, Duncan, Lieutenant Joe Diaz, how are you? Hey, right. Joe, what's up? Listen, Duncan, I'm getting a little heat from the mayor's office. We're going to come by. We're going to bust you tomorrow. Okay, leave $2,000 out. I'll get you back $1,000 in court. Just let me arrest you. We'll give you a ticket.
Fuck.
Take the bust. Okay. We come tomorrow. You're under arrest. The papers. We arrested Duncan Trussell. It's a $50 fine.
Right.
But they have to put your name in there. Plus, it'll help you out. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
It'll help.
So everyone's working together.
Everybody's working together. You know what that same thing is in Jersey?
What?
15 fucking years. So 15 minutes across, because it's only 8 minutes on the Jersey border.
Yeah.
So do you understand me? So because my dad got arrested in Jersey, he wasn't allowed. Part of his parole was he wasn't allowed in Jersey when he got out of prison.
Right.
So guess what? My mother didn't have any more problems. We had a babysitter now. So my mother had a bar in New Jersey. My primary business was numbers, but my mom didn't stop there. She had a legal business that rocked.
Yes.
My dad was the first Cuban committee man in New Jersey and the second biggest Cuban population. So we had this bar called El Reloj Club.
What's it called?
El Reloj, the clock, where your hours are more enjoyable.
I see.
And that was my mother's heart and soul, was that bar where it was music and cocktails, and then she had a restaurant. The other thing was a side business. My mother also had contacts to heroin and blow. My mother also had contacts to other things.
So your mom was you were a little bit of a crime family.
Right. My mother rocked the house, but we had a bar. My mother had an alias because when she was 16, she stabbed somebody in Cuba, so she shipped out. That's how she ended up. So the reason why when my mother died, I didn't collect Social Security was because my mother never worked under her real name.
Wow.
She had always worked under her alias. So we're adding to it now. I'm telling you all these secrets of love here.
Okay, let's stop there.
No. Go ahead, keep talking. I don't care about no fucking phone call.
No, I got to, hold on, let me stop. We're back.
We're back, bitches. Like, we're back from outer space like Gloria Gaynor's ex-boyfriend. You know what I'm saying?
Man, your childhood is, compared to most people's childhoods, your childhood's crazy. And you talk about it like it's normal, but when you were 6 or 8, how old were you when your mom started dating this new guy?
She started dating him like long distance relationship like at 5.
And
I didn't want to hear about it.
So when were you going to Sing Sing?
I was going to Sing Sing like the summers. The first time I went to Sing Sing was that winter. and I visited him, and then I got along with him in there. And I went
So you're going to Sing Sing with your mom, who does numbers, also appears to be like in a kind of a crime family,
Right.
and she's passing you to this guy to get numbers out of your pocket.
to give him the records of what was going on.
And in your future is you're going to be one cold November in the ocean with people chanting around you while they dump cold water on your head. That's your childhood. That's where we're at.
At that point.
At that point.
At that point. So now Juan moves in. He marries my mother. We have a little reception. And as part of his parole, he was not allowed to go to New Jersey. So he was basically stuck with me.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I needed a father in my life. I really didn't need a father in my life. So, my mother, at the time, I had already gotten stitches. I used to get in trouble, and I used to get into fights at Central Park in those days. So my mother had to go to Jersey and then take a cab back. My mother, till the day she died, she didn't have a car, or she refused to get a license. She took a cab or a limo everywhere. So she would have to come back and deal with me. And now, in hindsight, I felt really bad for my mom, what I put her through at those ages. I was a kid. And I was acting out. I had no father.
Yeah.
But now, boom, I got this father, and he wasn't allowed in Jersey. So at the time, my mother was also partners in the dry cleaners up in the Boogie Down Bronx called Quality Cleaners.
Yeah.
With one of my one of my real father's friends, Puerto Rican kid named Nelson Rivera. And it was also a numbers outlet.
Right.
So you have the bank and then the outlet. So basically you have 1,000 outlets, and all the money goes into that bank.
Got it.
So the action goes into that bank, and if you have too much, if you don't have a utopia, which is a different kind of conversation, a utopia is when everything balances off in your books. So if I call you for $500 on the Knicks, and all you have is $10 on the Lakers, and they're playing each other, I got to take that money off because I have a utopia. I'm either going to win a lot of money or lose a lot of money. I can't take that chance.
Right.
That's a complete different podcast when we get together.
Okay.
Okay, we won't confuse you now. So do you understand? So
Yes.
the bank, and then you have satellites.
Yes, I got it.
Okay. So I would go up there with him, come home, we'd all meet for dinner, and then my mother would get ready, and she'd go back to the bar at night and close at 3, and I would stay home with my stepfather. And those were the years where he taught me how to iron my clothes. At 5 and 6, he taught me a lot of little things. Taught me how to play the guitar. He was very good with math. A lot of times people will say numbers around me, and I'm there. And they're like, how the fuck did you get that? Because I'm good with numbers. I grew up in that. At night, he would make me go over numbers with him and add up the amounts.
Cool.
And $2.
He's like training you.
He was training me.
Yeah.
So Juan was very, at that age, I got into a couple fist fights. I was a yellow belt in karate with the brothers. I went to Goju Karate. As a matter of fact, Laranjo, the guy that's Eddie's student, his father was my first karate teacher in 1970.
Cool. Small world.
In 90th Street in West End, Mr. Orange. Okay, so I got into a few fights. One day I'm driving home with Juan. This is when I learned about Juan. One day I'm driving home with Juan. We're on Grand Concourse 178. It's 4:30, not 5:30. Two different types of traffic.
Yes.
4:30, 3:30, and something that you never see here is we see two dogs being stuck together. Have you ever seen two dogs being stuck together?
I've heard about it, never seen it.
We see right in the middle. We're in traffic. We're the first car at the crosswalk.
Yeah.
And right across the street, you see a German Shepherd and you see another dog running with each other, but they're running with their asses connected.
Yeah.
So the one's dragging one. And with that, a guy is with a stick trying to catch him. And the dog is running and the other dog is crying. They're both running together. So finally the guy catches the dog at the corner.
Yeah.
And hits the fucking dog. And I'm a kid. I'm playing with my ever stupid G.I. Joe. And I look up at Juan. And I look at Juan. He's looking at this fucking guy at the corner. I don't know about St. Lazaro. I don't know about Abaquad. Nothing. I'm looking at Juan, okay? And I'm looking at him, and I'm looking at him. And all of a sudden in Spanish, he yells out, "Hey, stop hitting that fucking dog. Déjese perro tranquilo." And the guy was white. He turned around, poor guy, and he said, "Fuck you." Ooh. And without even thinking, at this crosswalk, there had to be 3 cars in the middle, 3 across the street, 2 coming this way, 2 coming that way. Juan puts the car in park, gets out, grabs the guy, and starts smacking the fuck out of the guy, knocking him out, hitting him. Then he takes the dog together. You see him petting the dog. And as he fucking just walks back to the car, gets in like nothing happened, and we go to Jersey.
Wow.
Just throws a beating on this guy. 4:30. In those days, there was no cell phones. There weren't nosy people that called 911. Oh, my God.
Right.
Fucking shut your fucking mouth and mind your business and look straight. He gets out. He starts blasting this fucking guy.
Fuck.
Boom. Gets back in the fucking car. We take off. I'm like,
Church.
when you see your dad knock the fuck out of somebody, that raises the stakes now in your
Yes.
life. You're like, we got something. We got something to work with here. This guy's
that's
all right.
awesome.
This is awesome.
He's
you know?
heroic. He's heroic.
No, he's heroic. And he stuck up for a dog. And I go, home, Mom. He's like, don't say nothing to him.
Did he get the dogs apart?
He got the dogs apart and put water on the dog and shit to calm him down and hugged him. And the dog was kind of biting him. Juan was dedicated to saying Lazaro.
Wow.
It didn't matter if the dog bit him. It didn't matter. If there was pit bulls today, Juan would still give that pit bull while he was biting his hand and yelling. He would still have to give that dog. They're dedicated to animals, not just dogs. It's the whole fucking spectrum. So if you hit a dog like today, let me give you an interesting thought about abattoirs. When Michael Vick got convicted for that, he couldn't go to a lot of federal prisons. Do you know why?
Abattoir.
Abattoirs were there.
Fuck.
Abattoirs will slice your fucking throat over a dog. So, okay. So now let's get back into it. Now we become a family, and we're going to Met games in the afternoons. And, Juan is still not allowed to go into Jersey.
Yeah.
So one day, me and my mother are together, and we go, fuck it. Let's take a cab up to the Met game, and we'll meet Juan and Nelson at the Met game. I'm sorry. So my mother had a predetermined route in her head to get to this fucking Met game. We get in the cab, we go up there. My mother would always, as soon as you walked in the cab, she'd give you $20 just so you knew what time it was. So there's no misunderstanding. Duncan, here's a 50. Get off fucking Fountain and get on Sunset and step on it.
Wow.
Those red lights, I don't want to hear none of your bullshit. It's not,
Yeah.
Give me to somebody who knows how to drive.
Right.
We got a Met game in a half hour. We got no time for fiddle faddle. I don't want to see who the Statue of Liberty is. I don't give a fuck, okay? We're doing 90 in the left-hand lane the whole way. If you can't do that, give me my 20 back and we'll end this. My mother gets in the cab. And the 20 in 1970 is a lot of money.
Right.
Gives him a 20, sits back. This motherfucker's taking his own route. My mom's like, hey, we got a fucking game to catch. Take a different route. I told you to go through this way. And the guy's like, I know my route. Finally, my mother goes, pull the fuck over. Give my money back. Let's go. The guy's like, I'm not giving you the money back. My mother reaches over. In those days, they only had a petition. Reaches over. Her and the guy get into it. I'm in the back seat. I'm a little fucking kid. I'm crying my ass off.
Yeah.
They get into a tugging match. My mother takes the keys out of the ignition and says, you ain't getting dick till I get my money back, bitch. You just ruined my bet. You ruined my son's afternoon. The guy's like, I'm not giving you nothing. I'm going to hit you with a stick. My mother went to a payphone and called the Bronx and called Juan and Nelson.
Yeah.
And we were almost by. We were close to Queens.
Yeah.
And I mean, they got there within 20 minutes. And I'll never forget sitting and my mother's got blood on her face because my mother cut her hand, so she took the blood from her hand and put it on her face to really get the party started. And Juan and Nelson got out of the car. I'll never forget Juan coming up to me going, are you okay? And I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. Juan's going to take care of this. He's not going to hit nobody, I'll never forget the guy standing there. One thing I knew about karate was not to hit somebody with glasses. This cab driver had glasses, plus he was bigger than Juan.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget Juan taking me and going, move back 3 inches. And he just opened up and started blasting this fucking guy around the street. Bam, bam, punching him, kicking him. The guy's down. The cops come. Nelson and Juan turn around and go in their pockets and start giving the cops 20s and 50s, telling them that the guy slipped. I'll never forget being a kid and the guy was bleeding, sitting there with paper on his face. And we're sitting there goofing with the cops.
Wow.
Like goofing, like having a good time. Like
Crazy.
this motherfucker should have known better. And the cop's like, the next time you don't take the keys from a woman. And the guy's bleeding from his fucking eye. The glasses are broken. But it showed me about money. It showed me that New York City, you act up, you're going to get a beating.
Yeah.
And if we got money, nothing's going to happen to us.
Right.
But before they even turned around, they were already giving out fucking 20s and 50s to the cop. And they did it with style. They always had money put aside on top so they knew exactly how many bills to fold in your hand. And as soon as you shake the cop's hand, excuse me, officer, I don't know what happened here.
Wow.
Cop feels the money, and he would just take it. I don't know what happened. The guy fell. And my father didn't even speak English. That was the fucking crazy thing of this. So now I'm a family. I'm a family with this fucking lunatic. I'm starting to act up.
Is New York still like? Do you think New York's still like that at all?
Not with these momos that moved in. Look at the weakness we have around us. People texting and 5-hour energy. No, this is
Our energy's great.
This is when New York was New York. This is when men were men, dog. This is when New York was New York. You went to a club, everybody was drinking. They're not drinking water, and people's names weren't, Ant and whatever. No, this is when New York, this is the 70s. Go online, look at New York. Look at the movies they were making in New York. This was different. This was a different fucking society.
Yeah.
It was a different civilization. These are weak fucking people.
Well, no, it sounds
today.
like a lot of the way it works in like third world countries. It's considered like part of dealing with the police is you bribe them.
Listen, it was New York. If me and you get into an argument and a cop comes, he's going to arrest us both for harassment.
Right.
Really? And waste your time and my time? Why? This is when cops were cops. This is when it really made a fucking difference, okay?
Yeah. It wasn't as corporate.
No, it wasn't as dumb. This is dumb.
Juan is
Abaquah,
a violent man. He's violent in the right when he has to be.
When he has to be. So now we're at the bar. I'm starting to learn more about life now around Juan. Juan was he was very smart. Ron was a bookmaker. Once the parole got released, I started running with Juan in Jersey. Juan would not talk in a room where there was a phone.
Wow.
Do you understand me? Not if the phone was off the tab. Like, when a phone's on the old school, when you had a house phone.
Sure, of course.
He believed that the feds could tape you even when the phone was hung up.
You know what, man? I know people, I've heard people.
I'm telling you, this is the 70s. Juan was very ahead of his game.
Yeah.
Juan was hip to fucking surveillance on windows.
I heard some people in meetings will take their cell phone batteries out because they don't want to, because the exact same theory, which is that they figured out how to fucking bug everything.
Juan would not give you an inch. If Juan's business was the comedy store, okay, Juan would not have a gun in that comedy store. He would have 20 guns on that block, hidden.
Whoa.
He would have guns everywhere, hidden. You could bet your ass. If Juan was supposed to go to the Improv at 9 o'clock at night, before on the way home from the comedy store, he'd have you drop a gun for him at the Improv in a garbage can, just so there would be no misunderstanding. So if something did arise, he was always ready.
Always prepared.
Always ready to.
So you come from and with all due respect, you come from a crime family.
He was.
Your mom ran a bar and a numbers business, and your dad was
done. But in 1970, a numbers was not considered a crime. Numbers was just the cost of doing business.
Right.
Numbers is gambling. There's nothing wrong with that.
But you don't think there's other stuff they didn't tell you about?
Nah, it was numbers, and they knew people of the coke nature. I'm not even 3/4 in.
Right.
But my mother's basic need was numbers. It was bookmaking. But if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Because then my mother got caught on sports gambling. She got addicted. Right now, it's not men gambling who kill you. It's women gambling. That's the worst. Right now, 60 Minutes just did a thing about women, that they get addicted in Connecticut to games.
Yeah.
And lights. They have lights. Okay, so there's more to the story. If you live by the sword, you die by the sword.
Right.
My mother started as a bookie. It was attractive. In the 50s, there was a need for that. So the mafia would hire you anyway, put you in there and take 50% of your take. You'd still become a millionaire.
Yes.
Because nobody wants to deal. The Cubans don't want to deal with Guineas, and Guineas don't want to deal with Cubans. Blacks don't want to deal with whites, so there's a need for it in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And that was what it was. We had banks all over. And the biggest Cuban guy was a guy by the name of Jose Battle, Battle. He's in IED. He's on, if you go to Wikipedia or whatever.
Right.
Jose Battle. I knew him as a child, but my mother really wasn't with him. We knew who he was, and we did what we do. Juan, again, was a big-time bookie. He later became a loan shark because those Cubans come over and they want to buy property.
Yeah.
They want to buy buildings. They want to buy whatever. Juan became a self-made millionaire. When we talk about something, let's take an example. Last night I was watching a biography about Sammy the Bull Gravano.
Yeah.
Okay, it was on. In 1976, Sammy the Bull Gravano controlled construction in New York City. Let me say it to you again. Controlled construction in New York City. Let me tell you again. He made $3 million off construction a year legally.
Yeah.
So when you talk to me about criminals, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Right.
Criminals are somebody who sell crack on the corner. That's all their options. I'm talking about people who, even if they weren't criminals, they'd still be CEOs of a corporation.
Right.
You can't stop them. My mother didn't even have a fucking high school degree, but I would put her up against anybody in marketing because I seen what she did at that bar without speaking the language.
Yeah.
She sold one thing. She sold you a good time. She sold you fucking your mind. My mother knew how to keep you there. And that's what these people are about. I look at these people today that are just worthless motherfuckers. You know, again, Sammy the Bull. Sammy the Bull went from robbing fucking hubcaps when he was a criminal to running a construction company, 14 companies.
Well, this is, you know what this is, man. Here's the thing. The way it works.
The mind of a mind. The mind is a very strong thing.
The mind's a strong thing, and businesses now and big corporations, they're criminals. What they just control the laws. They're just people who got in control of the law, and they're able to do whatever they want. I'll give you an example. You know where, you know that there's a fucking factory in New Jersey that makes all the pharmaceutical cocaine for the United States? Do you know this?
Yeah, I believe
There's a
it.
fucking factory in New Jersey that makes cocaine. Now here's where it's called Malikan. Now here's where it gets really fascinating. Me and Rogan found this out. We talked about it on his podcast, and then somebody started emailing us this shit. So, Coca-Cola gets made with cocoa leaves. You know
Right,
this?
yes.
So they get real imports of cocoa leaves, right? They take the cocaine out of the cocoa leaves. Malikan is the company that fucking uses that cocaine. They make fucking cocaine in New Jersey. They make cocaine from cocoa leaves shipped in from South America. And they sell some of that to the pharmaceutical companies. But you know they don't sell all of that to the pharmaceutical companies. You know some of that shit they make like 5 tons of fucking pure cocaine a year. 5 tons.
5 metric tons. That's 10,000 fucking pounds.
Think of that. Think of that. Now, some of that's going to go to the different medical uses for cocaine. That they use it for like your eyes and stuff like that. But a lot of it, who knows where it goes? We don't know. Malikan, you know, or the company that makes the cocaine, I can't remember their name. I think it's Malikan. You know what else they make? Fucking Oxycontin, dude. They're making the fucking Oxycontin. They're making the new heroin. It's like they're the drug dealers. They're fucking making cocaine and heroin. And they're doing it totally legally. So they're not criminals. Now, you take somebody on the street who's like selling heroin, which is probably a little less dangerous than Oxycontin, a little less addictive than Oxycontin from what I've heard. That guy's a fucking criminal. What's the difference?
What's the difference?
There's no difference. It's the same person. It's the same entrepreneurial spirit. It's just one group of people got powerful enough to control the laws. The other fucking guy, he's like, he doesn't have the power, doesn't have the money. The thing you're talking about with the cops, where Juan gives money to the cops, palms it in their hands. This is happening every fucking day in D.C., man. Every day, lobbyists go up to D.C., laugh and joke, slap hands with the fucking politicians, and blast them with money.
Listen, when you give me $2 million for my political campaign, you don't give it to me because of my good looks and my big dick.
No.
You're giving it to me because of forum I'm standing on, and you want light on your forum.
That's it.
If I pass a law in Connecticut, you're going to make money from this one way or fucking another.
Right.
So what way of illegal fraud is that all the same thing? We're all talking about the same hypocrisy.
Same thing.
That's why I don't listen to anything, Duncan.
Right.
I don't watch the news. I don't care who's president because it doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect me. It really doesn't affect me.
Doesn't affect you.
They don't do. You're 38 years old. You've lived through 8.
Not 38, 37.
37. So you've been through 9 times 4 is 36. You've been alive for 9 elections, coherent for 4 of them. Has any changes happened in the 4 fucking elections that you've seen? What are the changes that have happened? How much are we saving on taxes?
War.
How many more fucking Mexicans in wars do we have?
Wars increased.
How many more economies?
Wars increased.
What were they talking about 10 years ago? Nothing happened. So why are you wasting 2-3 hours a day watching these fucking morons? You could be doing something else on your time.
Well, I'll tell you why. Here's why. And I don't waste time. I actually I used to get really fixated on it in the most ridiculous way. And I realized what you're talking about, you know. When I realized it was, I was fucking talking to this guy in front of the Improv, and he was talking to me about chemtrails. You know, how he thinks that the government flies over and dumps poison on people. He's fucking smoking a cigarette while he's talking about chemtrails. That was, to me, was a big moment where I'm like, oh, I get it. you're too weak to deal with your own self and your own life, and so you fixate on what's happening in the outside world, and that gives you a sense of accomplishment. Someone sits down and watches the news. Nothing on the news can help you. What if the real question is, what have you ever seen on the news that's really helped your life? When you hear about senior citizens getting their faces chewed off by pit bulls, when you hear about a fucking bombs getting dropped in this country or the fucking this or that, nothing. It's just negativity. It fills you with poison. It fills your life with poison. And then the next thing you know, you're walking around fucking depressed. And then what's the next thing you do? You go to the doctor. The doctor's like, hey, listen, I'm going to get you a prescription for this wonderful drug made by Malikan, this company in fucking New Jersey. Next thing you know, you're on this fucking crazy pharmaceutical junk because it got prescribed to you by a doctor. But it's no different than a fucking drug dealer being like, hey, kid, why don't you put some of this fucking shit in your vein? It's going to make you feel a lot better. The only difference is the doctor told you to do it, man. You know what I'm saying? But it's all the same fucking thing. It's all the exact same thing. Identical.
2,000 years ago today, right now, they were planning the Last Supper for Jesus.
Wow.
What were they really fucking planning? You understand me? Same fucking deal.
Yeah.
We're talking about cops. Ooh, sorry about that. That's a little,
That's all right.
That's a little steak from Mimi's that came out of my asshole. If you're looking for sponsorship opportunities here. I'm about 10. By this time, the bar's on fire. It's 1975, 1974. Cocaine was starting to come around. You know, I knew it was around. I knew my mother did it. I always knew my mother did coke. We didn't get to that part, but we got to rush through this. I'm just going to give you Santeria and when it came full circle.
Okay.
Now, there's 3 different forms of Santeria. There's 3 forms of anything in life. There's Santeria for beauty. There's the spirit world, which there's people in that realm that once a month or once a week, they could actually pass a spirit, and the spirit could talk to you.
Channeling
a spirit.
I've heard of this.
Not a lot of people are invited. Just you have to get to know people. One of my parents' friends that became also big mug makers, his name was Chael. His wife's name was Eva, and she lived on 26th Street, and they broke up. Chael was a straight-up gangster, you know, but his wife, believe it or not, was a mom. Sometimes you marry a guy and this is what he does. You know, he's a mom.
Yeah.
And she was a sports mom. She'd pick you up and stuff. Never drank. Never saw at my mom's bar. But she was Puerto Rican and she was raised in a family where they passed the spirits. Okay? It's a family thing sometimes.
Yeah.
So it was given to her from a grandmother. And when the spirit she passed was an old slave. Ñatoña. God bless her soul. Okay? So I hung out with the kids, and my mother would go over and they'd consult and they'd talk about Santeria.
They would consult with Yotonia.
No, they would consult about Santeria. And Yotonia doesn't just show up.
Right.
Yotonia you have to get prepared. And so one night a month, Yotonia would show up and, you know, whatever. I'd never gone over there. I just heard that the spirit that she passed was very strong. And when you walked into the house, there was a portrait by some famous artist who came in contact with Eva years ago, who she helped, who drew this gorgeous poster of this beautiful black African slave. And that's all. That was with Ñatoña. It was just. So one night I go over there and I see her in action, and she comes over. My mom tells her I can't sleep at night, and she goes, put a glass of water under your bed. That's it. Never said nothing to me again. A couple months passed. I'm at the bar one day. Now, again, as far as my mother had a bar, I knew that there was a shift that came in once a week in the daytime, and I knew there was a shift that came in once a week in the nighttime for a bribe. You know, what's a bribe? A couple $100. If the alarm goes off, they're there first. If
I see.
Little things. That's what that gets you.
That happens every day? That bribes like that?
No, once a week.
Once a week.
Everybody knows on Tuesday nights, the shift guy will come by and you give him an envelope. You know, they're not going to question you, beat you up. You don't want to give him an envelope, don't give him an envelope. When somebody breaks your window 3 times and the cops don't get there for an hour, don't cry to us.
Right.
Just a part of doing business.
Yeah, it's like a tip.
We know what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? If we
Yeah.
come in here and there's 18-year-olds drinking, we're not going to ask them. We know what time it is. So just pay us our fucking money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They would come in, and one guy in the daytime, one guy at nighttime. The guy in the nighttime was a patrol cop. They used to call him Chino. He wasn't really Chinese, but they used to call him Chino, and they always play with me. My mother had a paddle. What's that thing you throw the thing and the bowling pins go up? You ever see those games?
Skee-ball?
No, the other things. 19s from the 70s. It's a little thing, and you throw. We had that. We had a pool table, and he would come in and play with me. Nice cops, couple cops. Then all of a sudden, this cop started coming in the daytime. He looked like Serpico. He had a beard and long hair.
Yeah.
And he would come in, and he wasn't nice. He would always talk in Spanish and say bad words out loud, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And my mother would look around, and we always had 2 or 3 books that hung around the bar in the daytime. They would sit there. So if they came in, they couldn't bust my mother's balls, they would go to them.
Yeah.
Even if you searched them, you couldn't find the numbers on them. The numbers were always in the street, a little ball of paper written. So don't worry about it. You were wasting your time. My stepdad had trained all of them. You could never catch my stepdad with a gun on him.
What do you mean the numbers were in a ball?
Okay, when you come in to play a number,
yeah,
I got to write it down, no?
Yeah.
Okay. So I put it in a ball and I throw it on the street. So next time the other guy, I go out to the ball of paper, open it up, write the number and the amount and your initial and roll it back. So it's a piece of paper. So they throw it on the street. Okay. So the cops come, they're never on you. You never want nothing on you.
Sure.
You can have the cash on you, but you can't have the paperwork on you. So this, I get there one day, and I had seen this cop before, and this time he's telling my mother as I walk in to take the drink and shove it up her pussy.
Wow.
And I see the guys at the bar like, we could fucking kill this motherfucker. But the guy had a partner, a white partner, and the guy was a cop. He looked like Serpico. So this kept going on, and I could see that it was bothering my mom. So one fucking day I walk in there, and I see all these Cuban owners, Club 38, Café Loatita, Rindi.
Yeah.
They were all Cuban owners, but they were all involved in the same hypocrisy.
Yeah.
We all delivered to the same guy over the fucking bridge. So they're sitting around figuring out how they're going to ice this fucking Cuban cop.
Yeah.
This motherfucker's got to go. Now, these are some killers in the room. You had Juan in the room, my stepdad, which I blew over a story to get to that, and we'll go back to it. Okay? And they're talking, blah, 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 and they're talking about this motherfucker's got to go. Fuck this cocksucker. They don't care if he's a cop. We'll call outside people from Miami. Okay. 2 nights later, my mother goes, hey, we're going to see Antonia. Come on over with me. So me and my mom go over there, blah, 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 blah. I don't know what my mom was going to see her about. It definitely wasn't anything about the bar.
Yeah.
About 11 o'clock, it's getting late. Antonia sees us over. There's like 8 people in the room, and she's talking to all of us. 4 of them were her sons. Her sons would always stay to watch her. Antonia comes over to us, and she looks at my mother and says, whatever, God bless you. And then she looks at me and whatever, behave yourself. And then she looks at my mother and she goes, hey, there's somebody that's bothering you in your life. We want to get rid of him. And she looked around the room, and she got a white dish.
Yeah.
And she got a candle. And she took that candle, and she went like this with the white dish.
Just kind of like lit,
under the dish.
Yeah.
And she took the dish up. She showed it to my mother, and she goes, is this the motherfucker that's been bothering you? And it was like an image, like, whatever.
Yeah.
My mother and me look at each other. I'm like, oh, look at this fucking sham. Lady takes the dish and breaks it. And says, in 7 days, it's all over. Done. I leave there like this fucking dummy. Yeah. My mom's a fucking dummy, too.
Yeah.
This Santeria is bullshit.
Yeah.
They can all suck my dick.
Yeah.
Da, 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 da. Okay. I go to McKinley School in North Bergen. About 4 days later, I go to McKinley School, and I see there's a lot of commotion amongst the teachers talking about this and that and this and that. I leave there, and I get something which just wasn't right. I go home, and I get on my bike, and I go to my mother's bar. I was about 15 minutes. My house in Jersey, once we moved to Jersey, it's 15 minutes from my mother's bar. Go up to the fucking bar, get up there, and when I walk in, the same guys that were sitting there talking about killing that guy were now there, and there was 300 people there. They were all dancing and celebrating. And I walk in, and I go, Mom, what happened? He goes, that motherfucker got killed last night.
Damn.
And I go, where did he get killed? And they go, and there was at that time, for all you idiots that believe that dumb documentary about that thing on Showtime, about the lady, the coke dealer, cocaine cowboys.
Yeah.
Here you go, dummies. In 1975, there was a cab company in Union City, New Jersey called Rapido Taxi. Do you know what Rapido means in Spanish?
Fast.
Quick. Do you know what they delivered? They delivered coke. Okay? It was called Rapido Taxi. They're still there on 48th and New York Avenue. That's where they killed that man, at Rapido Taxi. He was going to shake them down, too. And somebody came out and they shot him with a machine gun. If you want, we'll call Mario Arias.
I believe you.
Who is a mechanic today in Union City. He's a mechanic in Vegas. His father owned the gas station where the Union City cops used to park their cars. So we discussed this in Vegas. Every time we see him, we talk about this story because the partner to this day says what happened was he went to collect at Rapido. He parked his car behind the building and walked to the front, and they were waiting for him right in front of the building. They must have shot him 80, 90 times. Because I went the next day, and they still had the yellow tape up, and they had 1,000 holes in the fucking wall.
Wow.
And I remember taking the fucking things out of the wall. But at 8, I went back. Now, that night right there put everything in circle for me, for Santeria.
Right.
For that realm that we discussed at lunch, that people don't want to touch.
Yeah.
That realm. Now, there's another realm I'm going to speak forward to. 1987, I go to prison.
Yeah.
I come out of prison in 91. That's when the whole bullshit ended. I didn't go in 87. I went in 88. I needed a job. They put me in a halfway house. I was living in Boulder, Colorado.
Yeah.
And I was living in Boulder, Colorado. And I need a job. And I go to Fisher Honda, the whitest car dealership in America. And I sit down, I interview with 2 guys, and they go, hey, by the way, the floor manager has to interview you. He's Cuban. You're going to like him. So I do my paperwork. He comes back. I don't know what the kid's name was.
Yeah.
He shakes my hand, and he tells me, and I go, by the way, he says, you're Cuban. Where are you from, Union City or Miami? And he goes, we were from Union City, but my father was a cop that got shot there in 1975. So that was the complete circle for me right there.
That's fucking crazy, man.
That was it. That was it for me. That was it for me. That was one part of my closure. What happened was. Now, Juan, after I get inducted into Santeria, Juan's thinking of the Saints told him he had to get involved. So we're at a party at my godmother's house on 148th and Broadway. My godmother owned 3 buildings. They're still there. She's not. They're still there on the corner. I used to spend my summers up there. It toughened me up. It really did tough. Half of the fucking craziness I have today is because of what I seen on 148th. I wasn't living on 88th Street with little yuppie kids.
Wait. So 148th Street toughened you up, not being at Sing Sing when you're 6.
No, that was bullshit.
That's nothing.
That's baby stuff.
Okay.
I'm talking about running with those kids on 148th Street, those 3-4 weeks a year. They put me into perspective because I was being raised spoiled.
Right.
These kids were dirty white kids, dirty Irish kids, dirty Puerto Ricans, and they made the best of what they got. So I learned a lot, and they put my life into perspective.
Yeah.
They toughened me up a little bit. I used to cry. They taught me how to buy knives. Now, when at a Santeria party one night, Juan, as a man, was I like him. I find myself being a lot like Juan a lot of times throughout my day. I'm very serious. Talk to me like a man. I'm not one of these kids. That's why I don't like comedians. That's why I don't hang with them. Be a man. Before you became a comic, you were a man, son. Let's be a fucking man up. That's why they come at you with all this dumb shit. Oh, the sound in the room wasn't funny. The microphone was off. You're not being a man. Be a man.
Right.
If you're a man, that won't happen.
Right.
And that's why I don't hang with a lot of fucking idiots. I don't, because I don't have time for it. I'm a man. To respect me and I respect you, and that's it. Juan was the same fucking way. That's where I get that from, and I admired that in him. That when you talked to Juan, you liked him for who he was, or you didn't. He wanted you to do that. I respect that. You know what? If he didn't like you, he'd say to you, you don't like me and I don't like you.
Yes.
Go to the other side of the fucking room.
Right.
Go, now. You don't like me. What are you doing over here? Wait, not like Hollywood, they come over and talk to you.
Yeah.
I don't want to be around those people. That's why people always say to me, why don't you do this? Why don't you hang out with this guy? I don't like none of them.
Yeah.
That's just me. And
that is one of the most amazing fucking things I hear.
I don't play that shit.
People will hate and hate someone, and then when they're around the
Oh
person,
my God! I seen your TV show. It was so great. Your show sucks, and his show sucks, and that's the reason why it sucks, because you both can't be honest. That's the number one thing. If you're not honest, go shoot yourself. You don't like somebody, you're gonna hang with them. Get the fuck out of here. And that's the things that Juan taught me. Juan would tell you right out, stop before you get smacked. We're at this party. Juan's making money at the time. Juan was a money maker too. Juan was a smart money maker. Juan was just a puny-headed motherfucker. When Juan died, he had $4 million cash 3-4 years ago.
Jesus.
He had property, but here's one thing. Juan lived on the 4th floor of a building that had no elevator. That's how he died. That was Juan. because he never wanted people to know what he had. It was absurd to him. He didn't like that. He didn't like flashiness.
Is that part of the religion? That's probably part of
No, that's part of manhood. He didn't like that. He didn't like having nice cars.
Yeah.
He knew he had 10 million.
Yeah.
I got to have a BMW to show you.
Yeah.
You fucking grape.
Yeah.
You fucking grape. That was Juan. That's why I admired Juan. Juan didn't have to have a convertible. Oh, my God. Fuck you. Juan was a man.
Right.
Act like a fucking man.
Yeah.
You're walking around with your BMW, but meanwhile, you can't pay your credit card bill.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, totally.
That was Juan. That's
Yeah.
what Juan, so when I think of Juan, I think of my honesty with people. Like it goes from head to toe.
Yeah.
I pay this is what I pay. I don't need all that to show people I'm special. I know I'm a bad motherfucker.
Right.
You got to figure it out now. You're up this guy's ass because he's got a Beamer. Oh, my God. Fuck you. The guy's scared of his own shadow.
Yeah.
But that was Juan. So we're at this party. It's a Santeria party. It's got to be 2 a.m. I got to be maybe 9. By this time, I knew Juan rocked and roll. I seen him throw 2 beatings. I seen him get in a couple people's faces.
Yeah.
We're at the Santeria party. We're in the kitchen. Bunch of yams are dancing up and down the living room, and we got people in the hallway. I tell you how cool Juan was. He didn't drink. Even my mother had the bar. Juan didn't drink. He'd go to the bar and watch my mother and watch her back. He didn't drink. He thought that if you drank, you were weak. If you got high, you were weak. Any of that stuff you did, you were weak to Juan. And he's right. He always told me, he goes, you know why drugs were invented? To weaken America, so when the Russians come over, they can fuck you up the ass. That was his mentality.
I don't know if I agree.
Whatever, but it weakens you. He thought that alcohol weakened us.
Maybe alcohol for sure.
So he's sitting there and he
didn't smoke weed?
Not a cigarette. When he was 60, this guy lived till he was 80 and he was in shape. Okay? He was one of those fucking nerds, okay? He used to read women's novels on books, like women's studies, and he would wear these little fucking gay faggot glasses at the bar. What he was doing was setting you up for you to say something to him. Okay? That was his purpose, for him to set you up.
So he was like, he would go fishing.
No, he wouldn't go fishing. He just wanted to see who was dumb enough. He wanted to see who couldn't shut their fucking mouth. You ever be doing a podcast with somebody and you're having a conversation and some idiot throws something?
Yeah.
And you look at him like...
You got the read. You got the gauge. You got the
read. So he would just do that to know what...
You know who did that? Who I saw do that, man? Mitzi did that. I remember...
Smart Jews do that shit.
Yeah,
That's why they live till they're 100.
I couldn't fucking believe it. We were having some meeting. For those of you who don't know, I used to work at the Comedy Store with Mitzi. And Mitzi is the owner of the Comedy Store and a legend. And that's like 17 podcasts you could do on her. But we were having this meeting. I can't remember what it was about. Some show someone wanted to put on, or somebody wanted to come here and film something. And I'm sitting with her down in that bar, right? And I'd just been talking to her, and she'd been talking about, what she wants from this, how much money she wants from this person, and what deal she wants from this person. Just totally normal, totally talking normal. So the guy comes and sits down, and right when he's there, Mitzi just changes and crumples and kind of becomes this old senile lady all of a sudden, where she's like, what was your name again? Hi, okay. And acts totally vulnerable. And then the guy starts becoming a little condescending to her, is acting a little weird to her, and is showing us what he's really like. That guy leaves and she's like, fuck that asshole. I'm fucking not going to do She she tricked him. Sucked him right in.
It's a gift.
Yeah.
These motherfuckers, it's a gift. So we're sitting there.
Yeah.
And I had my godmother was Beva, and then I had another godmother who was Rosaba. They're not called your godmother; they're called something else in the Santeria religion. You have a godfather who really isn't your godfather. He just stands in. You consult with him from time to time. When you make your saint at the end of your 7 days, they sit with you and they read to you what every saints for your life. There's 9 saints, and every saint wants something from your life.
Right.
Everybody expects something. They tell you what your future's kind of going to be in a store. Like they always pointed me into law. They always kept pointing me into law. You're going to be a lawyer. And I did it. I went all the way to law, and then my junior year I kidnapped somebody. It happens with a machine gun. But Okay.
You went to law school?
I was right in the beginning. I went to the University of Colorado. They had just accepted me into the fucking law school, and I got arrested for kidnapping, aggravated robbery. That was the whole point. I was a history, econ major. I was either going to become an international law guy and go to because I spoke Spanish.
Right.
Or I just wanted to be a nitty-gritty fucking law criminal.
So wait,
fucking
your
drugs.
first year of law school.
No, I didn't even get in. I didn't get in,
you were
but that
about
was
to
the whole
get
thing.
in.
I graduated to get into law school.
Gotcha.
And I got my
history.
kidnapped
somebody.
I kidnapped somebody with 2 semesters to go.
Why did you kidnap somebody?
It's a different fucking story. And I had to go into economics, and I had to pick a different fucking major.
I want to talk about you kidnapping somebody, not law school.
No, because we're on the Juan thing.
Okay.
So we're in this fucking kitchen, and this guy Nico is there. And Juan didn't drink. So this guy was baiting Juan.
Right.
He's being loud about it. I got to be 8, maybe 9. We're in this kitchen. There's a hallway. And I'm sitting next to Juan. And Juan's reading this book. The other thing Juan did was play deaf.
Right.
Always played deaf. What did he say? What did he say? What did he say? Que dijo? Que dijo? That means, what did he say? Juan always played deaf when it wasn't to his advantage. Wow. And he's reading, and the guy's like, well, don't you drink? Don't you say anything? He goes, the big reputation about you is you're a tough guy and shit. You're standing there reading a woman's book with those fucking glasses on. And I could see him reading. He knew what the guy was saying, but he's like, what did he say? And I'm like, nothing, Juan. He didn't say fucking nothing. Because I knew Juan. I didn't like Nico. Nico was the guy's name. And all of a sudden, my mother's in the kitchen, my godmother's in the kitchen, the dancers in that room there, and the saints, the room with the saints and all your things are in that room. Now, he would always have a piece in that room in my godmother's house. He would give her a couple dollars to have the 45 in that room. This guy kept talking, kept fucking talking, kept talking. Finally, my father lifts up, picks the glass, and goes, what the fuck are you talking about? He goes, all I want to tell you is you ain't shit. I've heard the reputation. And one goes, okay, closes the books, take his glasses off, goes to your room. I didn't know, but my godmother knew. That bitch got up and followed him.
Right.
And within 2 minutes, you see Juan coming out of that back room with that gun up in the fucking air, and that party stopped. The godmother, everybody got Nico and threw him out into the street. My mother tried to get Nico out into the street. I'm holding my dad back, and my godmother's holding my dad back. The party doesn't know what's going on. They find out within minutes. The street, I went to the street. Whenever I go to 148th, I still go to the spot. He goes out. Now, 148th goes to Riverside Drive on a slant down the hill.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget Nico popping up and finally Juan picking me up and carrying me out there with the gun in his hand and putting me down. I'm going, no. And my mom is out there yelling and screaming. And Juan looks at the guy and Nico goes, you ain't going to do nothing. He goes, if you were really a man, you would have shot me in the dick 10 minutes ago.
Oh, no.
Juan shot him in the fucking cock, right in the fucking leg, blasted him. Guy went down. Juan goes up to him and says, you call the police. I'll come back and finish the fucking job. Grabs my hand. We walk up to 147th and Broadway. We slam in the fucking car. He goes right down to Riverside Drive, throws the fucking gun in the water. We never discussed it again until 2006. When I asked him at dinner one night, do you remember when you shot Nico? And he looked at me and he goes, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Wow.
So that day he denied it. We never mentioned it. We left my mother at the party. She came home the next day and tried to talk to us about it. I'm like, I don't even remember what you're talking about. That was Juan's psychology. He didn't know what you were talking about. So 30 years later, he was still telling me. He didn't know what I was talking about.
Fucking crazy, man.
This is fucking craziness.
That's crazy.
And this is what, so that chapter's done. Okay?
How old were you when you saw that guy get shot in the leg?
9, 10. No, I hadn't moved to Jersey yet. I moved to Jersey when I was 10, so I was probably 9. And because of that, till this day, I'm dying to shoot somebody in the leg. And I will.
Why? Why do you want to shoot someone in the leg?
Just somebody who's confused one night. I want to blast them. One of these
dumb
dumb fucks in Hollywood, you know. One of these motherfuckers at Carlos Mencia, something like that.
You don't want to shoot. He's joking everyone. He doesn't want to shoot Mencia in the
No,
leg.
I'm not joking. I want to shoot somebody before this journey's over in the leg, somewhere.
That's
somewhere.
on your
Just to
bucket
see
list?
him fucking yell and scream. Somebody who thinks they're tough. Somebody who thinks they're bad to the bone.
Yeah.
Just to see what they're really about, because that's when you really see. That's when all the smoke clears.
When you shoot someone.
Somebody in the fucking leg. And what Juan taught me was that once you show somebody other color of life, you really get to see what they're about. And all that shit ends. And I've seen it. I can look at people now and I know who's bullshitting me. I can look at people and know if I take my dick out, they'll suck it. I know. You could tell. Santeria has good and bad like everything else. You know, if you look at the any religion we talk about, you're gonna get good and bad.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, it's a little, I mean, like, Santeria, the difference between Santeria and a lot of the, because you were talking about Islam, is the difference is there is a magical element to it. Like, you cast spells in Santeria.
Well, Santeria is a living, breathing, you cannot cast spells. That's where the shit goes awry. That's where the shit goes awry.
But the plate, when she...
That wasn't a spell.
What is that?
She just a vision. But here's what you do open up. You opened up death.
Right.
You have to be careful what realm you open up, because you're going to end up in that realm. Just because you opened up that realm doesn't mean you're not in it. You get lifted up to that realm. We had a family friend.
When you say realm, you mean like a mental state, a state of
your
consciousness,
life, a different realm, a different level of your life. We live our life in levels, and some people touch that level. You know, when you listen to fucking Jimmy Page on The Song Remains the Same, what realm was he at that he was playing that? When you listen to that brilliance, they had to be somewhere else. Was it the exhaust of the heroin? Was it something inside of him?
Something else.
What else? What realm were they at?
Right.
When John Lennon wrote Benny and the Jets and Fame the same week, one for fucking Elton John and one for David Bowie. You listen to Fame. What realm was he at?
Right.
Where was he? So when he died, it made it easier for you to believe, because he had touched something that not a lot of us touched. Okay, that's that realm. You know, are you surprised Bruce Lee's dead? Yeah, he was Abi cool and all that shit, but he broke barriers. He broke barriers in this fucking universe, because without Bruce Lee, there wouldn't have been a Chinese restaurant in this fucking country. There wouldn't have been a karate school. We would have still been calling them fucking chinks. But I was around when Bruce Lee was around, so I know the transformation.
But why do you think so? Why do you think so many people stay out of those realms you're talking about? Why do you think everyone's...
2, 1, they don't know the realm exists. For you to see death, you have to shoot somebody or kill somebody. Once you kill somebody, you don't think you go somewhere else? You don't think if you assault something to that, which is life, once you take a life, what do you think happens to you?
I don't know.
What do you think? You become something else. You've seen somebody take their last breath.
Right.
You controlled somebody's fate of taking their last breath. There has to be something coming your direction. You've reached a certain level of your life. You've taken a life. You know, you could take a fly's life. You could take a fucking mouse's life. You know, in the back of my mind, those are necessities. I had to kill a fucking rat because he was eating my crops. It's a life.
Yeah.
And the bigger the life, you know, I always... Listen, bro, I goof around with you guys, and I always wanted to shoot somebody. But I know that I could shoot somebody and get away with it. I know I can't get away with it, because I still have to live with my realm.
Right.
Just because I shoot somebody, I put somebody else in that realm. You know.
Why do you think, man, so many soldiers have like the highest suicide rate ever?
Before we went to breakfast, I told you that my mother has 9 brothers and sisters. She came from a poor country in Cuba. But believe it or not, all of them lasted till they were 90. My uncle, who lives 2 blocks from your house right here, walks Griffin Park every day, 5 miles. He's 78 years old.
Wow.
He still shoots testosterone. He has a girlfriend. He's 78. Wow. I know fucking idiots at the store that are 30 and can't have a girlfriend and can't get up at 5 and walk 5 fucking miles. 78, 5 miles, rubs cream on himself, has 2 girlfriends, 3 kids, still has a business, opens up till 4 in the morning. You follow me? So my mother's life expectancy was very huge. In we were rich. I'm very spoiled. When my mother died, I went from living in my own bedroom with cable TV and remote controlled television air conditioning to sleeping in my buddy's basement. That's why in 1982, when I woke up and there was a piece of dog shit next to me, it was such an important part of my life, because I realized I was dog shit. I realized that your life could change. That's why I like these people that walk around with their BMWs. They don't know that your life could change within 3 fucking seconds.
Yeah.
I went from having everything. My mother had money, but my mother didn't leave a will.
Why?
Because she didn't plan on death. She didn't leave a will.
Right.
So guess what happened to that money? I lost it. I lost the house. Everything goes into probate. So what my mother thought she was doing while she was bookmaking and thinking that she was getting ahead, she was really getting behind, because she didn't leave me anything. I've been on my own since I was 15 with my own dollar in my pocket. That's why I don't have time to think about who won the game. Or that's why I don't care about The Simpsons. Because when I was that age, I didn't have time to care about The Simpsons. Or, oh my God, I don't have time for Saturday Night Live. I was somewhere else. When my mother got, by the time, so this all happened in 75 with the cop. And my mother kept becoming a millionaire. And then she got caught up in her own gambling. She started betting. I would come home at night and there'd be 3 TVs on top of each other. This is way before 2 TVs went.
Wow.
So my mother would take the TV and the component, put a Sony Trinitron on top of that, and another TV on top of that, and she'd watch the Boston Red Sox against the Yankees, the Mets against the Dodgers.
She was betting.
She was betting. And I remember being as a kid, going to 86th Street in Broadway, which we'll go in New York with Rogan.
Yeah.
I'll show you that bank. And we used to have safety deposit boxes, 10 of them. I remember those deposit boxes fucking stuffed to the point where we had no money. In 78, my stepfather became very rich, but my mother became addicted to gambling. So my mother not only ruined her bookmaking business and her bar business, she was ruining her relationship. One night they got into an argument, and as tough as my stepfather was, he threw a cigarette at her, and my mother took it the wrong way, and she took a statue, and she broke his fucking skull with it.
Wow.
And he packed up his stuff and left. Him and I still were tight, but he told me, I can't be around your mother no more. So my mother went from one extreme to another. A couple months. Can I take a piss before this story?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Fill that up. Hey, Joey Coco Diaz here, a.k.a. Mad Flavor, letting you know, listen to Beauty and the Beast, listen to Red Band, listen to the JRA Hour, but don't stop listening to my main man, Duncan motherfucking Trussell. Stay black. Yo, cocksuckers, you're listening to the Duncan Trussell Family Hour. Enjoy. All right, so it's 78. My stepfather leaves. Something happened at the bar. My mother took a pinch, like in 76, for somebody contacted her. And my mother had 3 phones at the bar, and somebody talked drugs on one of the phones, so it caused a nightmare for us. And so my mother had to close the bar. So she was in a tough situation. We had the house, we had the mortgage. My mom had put away a ton of money over the years, but she had blown it on the Yankees and Mets. And we had this friend growing up. His name was Andres Garcia. His name was Tati. He had grown up with my father in Cuba. Good guy, had a great wife. Her name was Nina, animal lovers. There was only one problem. Tati was the original guy that did tumbes. A tumbe in Spanish is when I come to you and I go, Duncan, I heard you got 30 keys to blow. I got $2 million in the car. You want to do business? Yeah, I'll be over in an hour. And then I show up and there ain't no money. I just shoot you.
Shit.
Not to mention, Tati was crazy. So as a child, my mother would always say to me, listen, do me a favor. Because he would pick me up at school, Tati, sometimes, and take me into the city. Like when I was in the 7th grade, take me for like an $80 haircut. I mean, they'd take me to his girlfriend's, take me to a steak. I mean, I really liked him. He grew up with my dad. He was really tight with my real father. So I respected him for that, but I didn't know what his other business was, his other interests. And my mother told me, and I found out as I got older. He would take me to get my haircut, but then we'd go to his stash pads.
Right.
He'd go, at this place, I got 3 kilos of coke. And he would open up to me about shit. And I knew he would take me into these places, ask me if I needed cash. I had this girlfriend, New Yorker Ariza. I used to eat her pussy only, not fuck her. And he asked me once, he goes, are you fucking this chick? And I'm like, nah, I'm just eating her pussy. He goes, come on. He took me to one of his stash pads, and they gave me a capsule full of coke. I was like in the 7th grade. And he goes, if you ever eat a pussy again, put one of these coke rocks in her pussy. It'll not drive her crazy. I'm like, what the fuck are you saying to me? So do you understand me? When you have a guy like that, you gotta love him. Like, he would always ask me, you want to get laid? You know what I'm saying? Like, I loved him.
Did you put a coke rock in her pussy?
I don't think I ever did. I think I was too scared.
What does that do? Is that a real thing?
I have no fucking idea. I have no idea. But I liked this guy, and I knew what he did, and I had heard stories. And there was this one guy, every time he went away, suppose there was a rumor that there was one guy called Marcelo, a black guy, a black Cuban guy, so they called him a Negro Marcelo, was fucking his wife. And then one time he came back, and somebody killed the Negro Marcelo.
Wow.
And they killed him in his bar in New York City. So he had all this heat on him. Now, in the meantime, Tati was... remember the lady, Ñatoña, the lady who brought the saint down?
Yes.
She was into Santeria, and she was kind of grooming him along.
Right.
Like a saint. The saint finally reached out to Tati and said, you got to make your saint, which is you have to do this ceremony for 7 days and be somewhere.
Yeah.
Since Tati was on the hunt, since people were hunting him at the time, like he had a lot of enemies and shit, including my stepfather. My stepfather and him didn't see eye to eye. Yeah, because they were both tough guys. Real tough guys. Real guys that would shoot you. Not make-believe. These guys just didn't, even when we had parties at the house, they would stand on opposite ends of the thing.
Right.
I would either talk to one or I talk to Tati.
Yeah.
You never talk to all of them together. Tati was a badass motherfucker, skinny, but you could tell he would shoot you. And he did. He was shooting people for a living. So they went to Tati and they said, can you do saint? The only thing was Tati didn't trust a lot of people. He trusted my mother. So he went to my mother and he goes, listen, if you let me make saint in your house, I'll fucking take care of all your bills. That's it. Done. You give me a number on a piece of paper. $2 million? It's done. I will take you out of your dilemma. Your son will be taken care of, whatever.
Just for this ceremony happening?
Just for the ceremony.
Why?
Just for the 7 days.
Why would you pay that
Because
much?
it was very important. First of all, for this ceremony, you got to pay $100,000 now. Because when I did it, it was probably $8 or $9 grand. But when I went to Miami last week, there was a couple Santeria kids, the door guys at the Improv, and I was talking to one of them. Just for the saint, just for the door guys now, for the little guy like Wah and Ogun, it's $15 grand. Because it's too much fraud in that religion.
Yeah.
So now the people that are good charge good money for the people who really believe. Okay.
That's crazy, though, man.
But this guy had a ton of money. He sold coke. He had millions of dollars. And the main thing was he wanted to help my mother. My mother, in turn, went to her godmother because you got to ask permission for everything when you have saints. I have to ask permission for everything. Do I? Sometimes. But there's mornings I wake up and I ask permission. I get 4 pieces of coconut and I just throw them on the floor and say, I'm supposed to go to Atlanta with Duncan. Is this a smart move? No.
Right.
I stay the fuck home.
Yeah.
I live off signs for Santeria. A lot of things people go, well, you didn't show up. Dog, I went out to the car and I seen a dead bird. I don't give a fuck if your mother was sucking dick. I ain't going. If I see one thing in my life that I don't like, like if my cat, I have a cat that doesn't like when I go out. I don't know why. Allie is the best cat in the world.
Yeah.
Doesn't bother Terry. Doesn't say a word to Terry. But there's nights as I'm getting dressed, Allie's going crazy. In front of my fucking door, going back and forth, back in front of the shower, rubs up against me. On those nights, I don't give a fuck what you're paying me. If my cat don't want me to go out, I live off of signs. I'm very superstitious.
You know who else does that? I was just reading about, how these people go to the Amazon, to the shamans.
I do all that shit.
Well, these people, they say that they pay a lot of money, man, and they go to the Amazon for these shamans to let them drink ayahuasca.
Right.
But the shamans, exactly the same way. If anything's weird, they won't do the ceremony.
I don't do nothing.
Yeah.
I don't do nothing. If anything's weird to me in the morning as I'm leaving, fuck you and who you're waiting for in Atlanta or New York. I don't got nothing to do with me. Tell them I'll see him next time. Got nothing to do with me. I don't give a fuck if I'm headlining. I don't know how many times I've canceled a gig when I'm headlining. I just don't feel like getting on a fucking.
Have you ever had the like not listen to it and done something and had bad luck?
Absolutely. That's why my first intuition is always the best. If I say to you, Tuesday night, I'm going to see the fucking Lakers. And then Tuesday night, some idiot calls me or something, and I get something happens, I'll go, what was my first thing?
Right.
The Lakers. I should have shut my fucking mouth.
Yeah.
That's something I learned when I was like 20. I live my life by signs. Life will give you signs. Life will give you fucking signs. It'll tell you exactly where the fuck you're going. It's either you or not to pick them up. My mother taught me to pick up on signs. I love it. I fucking love it. I see them all the time.
No, I just read this thing. There's a form of Greek. I just read about this. It's some kind of Greek. It's a form of Greek prognostication. I can't remember the name of it now. And what you do is you go and sit down in a busy place, and you start like doing like breathing exercises. But you go there with the intention of getting a sign, and you just wait, and you just watch all the different stuff that's happening around you. And something will fucking happen. Someone will come to you and say some weird shit, or you'll see somebody wearing a T-shirt that has something directly related to what you've been dealing with. And this is a form of it's a form of
Absolutely.
like throwing the coconut shells.
I let the fucking universe do the talking sometimes.
Right.
If I'm in my mind. So my mother takes this fucking money from Tati against everybody's wishes. Like, dog, when you do saint, it cleanses you. Not like a baptism or something like that. It just has like a different type of cleanse, like energy.
Yeah.
Listen, bro, I'm a big sign guy, but I live off of energies. A lot of times you go up to somebody, you could tell their energy, like at the store. If I see a comic that's too desperate, I don't want them around me.
Yes, totally.
I
call them vampires. You don't want to. You got to get them away from.
Different energies that you don't fuck with. Okay,
you can't.
And they told my mother, this guy's energy, it's just too much. It's just too much depth, and for the wrong reasons. My mother was in a bad position. She said, "Fuck it, I'm doing the saint." I think Dottie made his saint in April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. 8 months later, my mother was dead.
Fuck.
But let's get down to nuts and bolts here. Let's forget all that. My mother's a spick. Okay, there's Cuban people and then there's spicks.
Okay.
My mother didn't even know how to clean like normal people. Like your mom cleans with a mop, right?
Sure.
Like if my mom lived in this house, she would get a bucket and take hot water and bleach and put it in a bucket and just throw it on the floor and then take a broom and clean up. My mother was a neat freak. My mother was a cleanse freak.
Wait, she would throw bleach and water on the floor.
Yeah, bleach and water. Just clean and sweep. Clean like a real person. Not like a woman with a little mop. And
my mother was a real person.
Let's not move that piece over there. My mother cleaned. My mother used to say these fucking Americans are too fucking dirty. Because I clean. My mother cleans. My mother would get in the bathroom and clean. My mother wanted you to be able to clean off the fucking floor. My mother painted the walls. My mother was a clean freak. When she cleaned differently. Hot boiling water. Her dishes were dirty. Her dishes were different. Her bathroom was different. My mother cleaned.
How to clean.
Okay. Right after Tati made Saint, we got invaded with rats.
Wow.
And I'm talking about rats and mice. I'm talking about opening up Wonder Bread. The thing, opening it up, and when you open it up, a rat flies out of your Wonder Bread or a mouse. Mice, we would be sitting there.
So his energy got sprayed out into your house.
We would. I got a lung infection. That summer, the government spread weed to kill marijuana in California. They spread this thing, and what happened if you smoked it, you get sick. And I got paraquat. I ended up being in the hospital for 13 days.
What's it called?
Paraquat. This was from their 70s. It doesn't even exist anymore. Yeah. You had, just everything that could go wrong. Like I was a fucking great football player, a great freshman basketball player. Here I'm going into my sophomore year, and I was spitting blood. It was just. And
you think this is because this guy, his energy's got.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. For 20 years, my mother was alive and kicking. For 20 years, I had no fucking problems. It was just a level of things. It was just one level after the other. I just told you. What the fuck did I just tell you in the beginning? I told you that story so you motherfuckers would listen. My mother's got 9 siblings. They all fucking lived till they're 90.
Yeah.
The mother. So you mean to tell me my mother died when she was 48? That's what you're trying to fucking tell me. Out of 9 siblings.
All right.
That is why I filled you in on those stories.
Right.
Because I wanted you people to make your own fucking hypothesis.
Yeah.
This isn't just a fat fuck telling you. I'm building it for you.
Yeah.
There was no reason. I'm telling you the story about the cop that I don't have to tell you. Because I have to tell you because that death was lurking.
Yes.
And somebody had to cover that spread. Somebody had to pay for that fucking death. The transfer of energy that man did. And listen, Dottie died. You know what Dottie ended up doing?
What?
Because this was 79. So after my mother died in November of 79, 80 was when Cuba opened up again. 80 was the what was it called? Marielitos. That Scarface and all that shit.
Oh, yeah, okay.
My mother never even lived to see that. Like, they canceled my mom out to see that. That would have made my mother happy because she could have gone back and gotten her mother and her daughter. God took her a month, or whoever took her a month before they took away her daughter and everything. Because my sister got stuck in Cuba. But the reason why I explained all those stories to you is to give you the state of mind, how this works.
Got it.
This is why I'm here with you talking about Santeria. Because at 8 and 9, I didn't fucking believe in it. It took me 30 years to look at my life and see where it's transformed. Okay, my mother dies. I go out there into the fucking world. And I didn't know anything about coke or whatever. I went crazy like any other 15-year-old kid would have done. I had no supervision. I had nothing. And in 85, 6 years later, I was coming to Colorado. The cops were looking for me. The mafia was looking for me. People on the street are looking for me. And I stop at my godmother's house on 148th Street. She didn't know about my cocaine career, what I was doing, or had become a junkie. I sat down there. It was 2 p.m. when I seen her. I was looking good. My face was sunny, and she looked at me, and she threw the shells down, and she looked at me, and she said, "Oh, Batalat doesn't want you to do nothing white.
Wow.
And 2, he doesn't want you to ever do something bad with 2 other people, with 3, because you're always going to end up bad." In 1987, I'm in this jail cell. I'm waiting for my bail to get set, and I'm sitting there, and her words came back to me.
You didn't listen.
Didn't listen. And so when I was 8 and 10 and 12, yeah, I laughed at Santeria like anybody else would have done, any other religion.
You people are very skeptical these days about this kind of stuff, man. People are very, very skeptical. And many people who listen to this are going to think that it's superstitious nonsense. I personally don't think that. Do you know about if you ever, who Robert Anton Wilson is?
Yeah, I know the name.
So he talks about these things called reality tunnels, and he says everybody's got their own subjective universe, their realm, their own universe they're living in, right? And some people, they all tune in on the same universe, on the same realm. They all tune in, or they know how to tune you in to this specific realm. And once that happens, you get a religion. Once that happens, you get like Santeria, a bunch of people all who have tuned into this way of describing the infinite universe around you, using saints and the different gods and goddesses that represent the different states of mind. And once that happens, and enough people have connected to that thing, it's got power, man. It's got real fucking power. And how it kills you, how that cop died, or what happened when your mom's friend fucking blasted that energy into your house? We don't know what it is. We don't understand it because it's outside of language. We
have a mutual friend that had cancer.
Yes.
And if anybody doesn't know this, who listens to the podcast, I struggled with cocaine from, I'm not going to tell you struggles. I did cocaine from 80 to 88, and I did more, and I went to prison, and from 91 to 99 or 2000, I struggled with, I did cocaine. Then in 2000, I moved to L.A., and I started judging myself on a comedy basis, and enjoyment became a struggle because it wasn't cocaine anymore. It was a confident, it was just this thing. It was just this extra poison, this extra bad energy in my life, along with all the other energies that were running around me in Hollywood at the time, especially at the Comedy Store.
A lot of shit, of weird shit there.
One of our dear friends, she loved Duncan and she loved me dearly, was Marilyn Martinez. I had struggled with cocaine, people, from 1979. It was now 2007. And that time, I stayed clean when I was in prison. I was involved with the prison system for like 6 months, which is nothing. And I was also clean from January 1987 to June of 1980. No, from January of 1985 to June of 85, when I thought I was going to be clean. That was 5 months. So from 79, and I'll close out after this, Duncan. I don't mean to take up.
Are you kidding? I don't want you to.
From 79 to 2007, I was very, very, very addicted to cocaine. I did cocaine for close to 30 years of my life, 28 fucking years.
Jesus.
And
so expensive, dude.
The last 7 years was the struggle because you're trying to strive as a comedian and as a human being. You finally found your note at 30-something.
Yes.
But the cocaine was holding me back.
Right.
And if you knew it because you were my brother. A lot of these other idiots didn't really know it. They just thought he was hooked on coke. Or, he's funny because he does cocaine before he goes on stage. Well, anybody who knows you don't do coke before you go on stage. It was. I thought that if I stopped doing coke, it would not make me funny, Duncan. It scared me. This is all I had. I had no family. I had nothing. So I thought that if I stopped doing coke, you wouldn't be funny. And our dear friend Marilyn Martinez got cancer, and she was in the hospital for a couple of weeks. And I went to see her at the house when they brought her to Silver Lake because I hate hospitals. And she was laying in the bed talking about life and what this cancer did and her weight and all this. And she said that if she ever got to beat the cancer, and she was looking away at the time, she goes, if I ever beat the cancer, I'll go back to the Comedy Store and I'll never curse on stage and never hold God's name in vain ever again on stage. And she was looking away when she said this to me. And with all this stupid shit she was saying, like, she looked at me with death in her eyes, Duncan. You knew towards the end she was scared.
Yeah.
There's a part where you get told you got cancer. There's a part where, but once it sinks in, It's a scary situation. She didn't want to die. She wanted to do more. And in this fucking diatribe that she was telling me from the Vicodins or whatever the fuck drug they give you, morphine.
Yeah.
She looked at me, Duncan, and you didn't know this, and I want to tell you. She looked me straight in the fucking eyes, Duncan, and she said, you gotta stop doing that. Gotta stop, Joe. Gotta stop. And I go, what are you talking about, Marilyn? She goes, you gotta stop doing coke. And she goes, this ain't coming from me. And I just fucking froze. I just grabbed her hand and froze, And at the time, I had these, I'm a cat freak. I had these cats in my backyard. And they kept reproducing, and I kept saving them and giving them away. And it was these last 4. And, they were just funny. They were funny little cats. I got involved with these last 4. And there was this one cat out there. His name was DJ. He looked like my cat, Demi. So I called him Demi Jr., which is DJ. He was crazy. And I mean, Duncan, this was a 4-week-old cat. And I come out and go, DJ. And he come running up to me. And he run on his back. And he had 2 other Siamese sisters that were gorgeous. But he had this white and black fucking ugly thing. Have I told you about this?
No.
This white and black ugly cat. That wasn't even Siamese, wasn't even yellow.
Yeah.
He would just run by. Whenever I come out looking for DJ, I go, DJ! And he'd be up in the tree with the black and white when I go, this fucking black and white one's going to get this motherfucker killed one day. And I'm going to kill this fucking black and white cat.
Right.
I fucking hate this little motherfucker. Weeks went on, where's Demi? Where's DJ? He's with Superbad. So I started, that's when the movie Superbad came out.
Yeah.
So I started calling him Superbad. This is about the time Marilyn's going through all this. Marilyn dies November 6th. In October, around October, those 4 cats start getting sick in the yard like all the other cats did. But we were attached to them. There wasn't 18 back there anymore. There was 4 and the mother. So my wife brings up the 2 girls first and saves them and brings them back down. And this went on. And at the time, my cocaine problem was so bad, Duncan, I was doing 1.5 grams in 1 shot. 1 shot, Duncan. Fuck what your listeners say. Fuck all this shit. I wasn't even paying.
That's insane.
I wouldn't even stop for red lights until I got to the ATM machine. Once I got to the ATM machine, I wouldn't stop to a red light till I got to the coke dealer's house. And I would give him $90, and he would give me 1.5 grams. And I would take it in the baggie and crush it and put $1 bill in it and snort it as I was driving home.
Fuck.
Okay, and by the time I get to my house, I'd run upstairs and shit and jerk off till 4 or 5 in the morning. And then I'd write comedy jokes and think I was brilliant.
That sounds awful.
Oh, please. This is the end of my addiction. And I pull up one night and I do this fucking gram of blow, and I got the other 30, and I never brought cocaine upstairs, Duncan. I didn't want to disrespect Terry, as crazy as it was. I'll do the coke outside, but I'll never bring it upstairs. And this one night I had the 30 in my pocket and the 60. So I do the fucking 60. And I take the 30 and I bring it upstairs with me. And as I walk in, Terry had called me early and she goes, hey, be careful. DJ got sick. DJ's in the bathroom with Superbad. They're both sick. And I go, you brought Superbad up? What the fuck? I hate that motherfucker, you know? And I go upstairs. I go in the bathroom. I piss, I drink water, I take the notebook, I'm writing jokes, and 2 hours later I go back in there, I do that last gram of blow, 1/2 gram of blow, and I'm giving DJ life, and Superbad is there, and I'm petting DJ, and I'm like, you're going to be fine, and Superbad's half dead too. They were dying. They would get anemia, the cells, something would go into their cells, if somebody didn't adopt them quick enough back there, and they would get some type of anemia, and their leg would swell, and they would die, and my wife, every 2 days my wife was crying. So I'm playing with DJ, and I finally, 5 o'clock comes, I go to bed. About an hour later, my wife wakes me up. She goes, Joe, wake up. DJ died. Duncan, right there, I knew it was because of the energy that I had brought into that house with that fucking cocaine. This cat was, that's at least what I thought.
Right.
But I go, Terry, do me a favor, just close the door. I'm not even going to wake up today. I'm going back to sleep. How can DJ die? But in that pain and in those tears in the bed, I go, I got up, and I went, and I fucking hated Superbad. Hated him. And I don't know why. I just thought that he was going to get DJ killed or something. I don't know why. I shouldn't have hated this cat. And I looked at Superbad, this little black and white thing with dirt on his paws and dirt on his face. And I looked down and I go, Superbad, I'm sorry. And I pat him and I said, I made God a promise right there. I made God a promise, but most importantly, I made Obatala a promise. I said, Obatala, if you save this fucking cat, I'll never do blow again. I'll never fucking do blow again. Never, ever, ever do. Duncan, I went back to bed. I got up. I pat him. I fed him oatmeal cookies, you know, and by the time nighttime come, I was hoping he'd die. You know what I'm saying? After like 8 hours, I'm like, die, motherfucker. I need to do blow now, you know? Die, motherfucker. Die. 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. Fucking cat lived. That was 5 years ago. I have not done cocaine. And number 2, that cat sleeps with me. Every night he comes in,
so
I put him under the blanket, I hug him, I fall asleep and he leaves, then he comes back in the room about 6 o'clock. Or people try rehabs, hugs, exorcists. All I did was pray to Obatala, and I gave him my life. And I go, if you save me not to do this drug, and you save this fucking cat, I will never do cocaine, a pill, nothing. Duncan, it's going to be 5 years. I smoke pot, and I eat hash pills, and I eat chocolate chip cookies.
It's fine.
But
no, man, I remember when you got off, and I remember how much better you started looking. And there was like a space of time where I hadn't seen you for a while, and I remember running into you, and it was like, holy shit, this is a whole different person, because you were fucking yourself up, man. You really were. And you turned the corner. And that's something that I really love about the way you did it. Because so many people, they create situations for themselves where they got to go to drug rehab, or they got to go to AA, or they got to go to NA, or they got to go through all this shit, which is cool if it works. But you just fucking did it. You just stopped. You just shut it down.
This is where you come in. You don't have to be intelligent or a fucking genius to know this. Again, Duncan gets insulted when I say there's drugs, bad drugs.
That's right. I just mean not weed.
The bad drugs come in when your character is weak.
Right.
Drugs come into your life at a point where character is weak. Something happened, you had death, something, society lied to you, just something.
Yeah.
And I knew that for me to quit, it wasn't. All these rehabs and all these things attack the wrong things. It's your character. When you go to acupuncture, it takes a year to go to acupuncture for it to work because you're bringing your chi back.
Right.
What the acupuncture does is build your chi up so your chi destroys everything that comes into you. It's not to destroy this or this muscle or your back. Now, I went to acupuncture for 8 months and my back didn't heal. No, because you worried about your back. You missed the beauty of the mountains because you focused on the tree. Yeah. Build the chi up and everything will happen. So what did I do to quit coke? I went and joined Kung Fu with black guys and got beat up every day because this is what I did as a kid. Yeah. When I came from Cuba, I went back to my youth and I thought about what brought me character. What brought me character as a kid? What made me fucking do this at 13? And I went back and did it. Pick up papers. My mother used to make me do dishes. When my wife at the time, girlfriend Terry, walks in the house, my house is solid. I'm looking at the clock now. I have other appointments, but I don't give a fuck because I know I got to go home and vacuum. And it's not because my wife's going to beat me up. It's a character thing. Yeah. I want the house to be perfect for when my wife gets in. I started working on my character. It wasn't about loving or hug. Yeah. Oh, my God.
No, man.
No! It's your character. Yeah. If you build your character, everything else will come. An addiction, it comes for everything else. And this is what I gave myself. I went back to what I was. The only thing I know about myself, Duncan, this is the only thing I don't know if I'm ever going to steal again. I don't know if I'm ever going to rob again. I don't know if I'm ever going to kidnap or do coke again or be a cocksucker. I do know one thing. I'm always a man.
Right.
And when you make that commitment to life that you're a man, I really don't want to smoke cigarettes no more, but I have to. No, you don't. You're a man.
Yeah.
That's what we've forgotten in this country. Right. We're fucking men. The Marlboro man was a bad motherfucker, but we have no. Now today we got the most interesting man. He sits with 6 little chicks that are 20 years younger than him. We're men. Men don't do shit that the regular men do. Right. We're men. And this is why when a man's word is everything. That's it. When I look at you in the eye and I go, I will never do cocaine again. Yeah. Before when we were at breakfast, I said that my stepfather was a different type of individual because he didn't understand anything else. He would pull you aside and go, listen, don't do this no more. It's done. Don't do it. It's over. Yeah. I didn't know what he was talking about. I thought he was trying to control me. What he was trying to do was put strength in my head.
Action. He basically, a man acts. A man decides to do something and does it. Not just, I mean, also women can do this too. In general, most people in their lives these days.
Balls. It's balls. It's something.
Well, not everybody gets to encounter a wand. Not everybody gets to be around. See, this is one of the cool, I mean, this is like one of my favorite things about being a comedian and getting to live in Los Angeles. I get to meet people like you. And so I get to be around like iconoclastic people who've had insanely crazy lives, and from that I can like pick up stuff and learn it. But a lot of people, they don't get that, man. They were raised, especially these days, the way people are raising kids these days, it's like they're treating the kids like they're in a china shop all the time, and they're like, they can't go outside, they can't do this, they don't tell them about death till they're 7, they don't, you know what I mean? There's like, people are very, very protective
Duncan,
of their kids.
Nobody ever tells you that you're a man.
Right.
All they could do is tell you that you're not a man.
Yeah. That's right.
You just try to tell me all the reasons why we're not men. We're men. We're men. There's men and there's women. And there's women that have bigger balls than men. That's the ones I hang out with.
Yeah.
But a man, and when I say a man, I'm not meaning a guy who goes into the bathroom or a guy who eats pussy or a guy who beats everything up. I'm talking about a man.
Talking about integrity.
What at the end of the week, what does a man stand for? Then come back to me. And that's what I thought about. I go, what does a man stand for? I was missing out as a man.
What do you recommend? What do you suggest to everybody listening right now? Guys listening right now are like, man, I'm a fucking weak person. I'm weak. I'm lazy. My life is fucked up. What do you recommend to people listening? What's some practical?
First of all, none of us are fucked up. There's no bad or there's no good parenting. People say, well, I'm doing this to be. I know people who had great parents and they ended up fucking killing 85 fucking people. If you're weak or if you feel it, you're lazy or whatever, you got to grab yourself. You got to realize why you got put on this fucking planet. We could have either been put here or we could be one of those black kids in the commercials. Wow, how lucky are we?
Right.
I could have been put here or I could have been put in fucking Iran. So what you mean to tell me, you're going to sit at home and watch the season premiere of baseball tonight? Go on and do something with your life. This is what I look at every day. I could have been in Cuba right now, Duncan.
Yeah.
For some reason, somebody, Buddha, Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi, the guy on your wall, Santeria man, Spirit man, somebody made a decision to put me in the United States every day. How can I not get up and love life? The same thing if I was in Nigeria right now and I was one of those black kids. You have to love life. I didn't know this till I was 30 and I was already drugged out and I've been to prison.
How do you love life? I mean, you can't just start loving life. How do you do it? It's like
live it. Live it for yourself, not the internet, not your fucking iPhone, not your other thing. People always say to me, Joey, you have great stories. And all my stories, I ever tell you about when I had a picnic with my mother? Did you hear anything about any nice things with my parents?
No.
I went to baseball games a couple times. What child? I have no child. I remember going to Puerto Rico with my mother, going on the ocean, drowning in Coney Island, seeing a piece of shit in the water. A lot of people, when you talk about memories, they talk about their childhood memories. I gave up all that because I lived.
Yeah.
I lived. I learned through life the hard way, and I'm sorry some people don't like what I'm saying. I don't give a fuck. When you're 80 and you're on a deathbed, you're going to think of me and say, you know what, he was a fat fuck, but that time on that one podcast, he had a lot of sense. I lived my life. People say to me, you don't twit in the daytime. I'm living.
Right.
I'm living. When I get up at 6, I twit.
You get up early, man.
I get up at 5, and I'll twit, and I'll write jokes, and I'll feed my cats, and I'll wash my pussy, and I'll make some oatmeal, I eat some fruit. But I live. I don't need to be on Twitter all day letting people know what I do.
Yeah.
I'm going here. No, we live. And live your life. It's a beautiful fucking life. I didn't know it was either. So, and this is why the Tower of Joey Diaz is going to be about. All I want to tell people is that I'm 49 years old now. Jesus Christ, I wish I was 29. Jesus Christ, I wish I was 29. Does that make me special? No, because everybody who's 49 wishes they were 29.
Right.
This new generation, I don't ever want them to feel that way.
Right.
That's what I want them to learn from me. I don't want them to take from me that I'm a funny guy or that I did a dirty joke on Showtime or that I'm on the Joe Rogan podcast talking about Whitney Houston coke. No. That's all I ever wanted from people. I want, when you're 49, to go, fucking Joey Diaz, that fat motherfucker. I listened to a podcast one day, and he fucking said you don't ever want to do this. I don't ever, you think I wanted to do coke till I was 45, 4 years old?
No.
I would have been good at 31. We
Yeah.
would have still had stories. Would have still fucked chicks in the ass and put coke rocks in your pee hole. And Duncan.
You are the fucking greatest, man. Listen, you people out there. This is a saint who has come on the show. He is the Pope, Bishop, and Lord of the Church of what?
It's happening now, motherfucker.
The Church of what's happening now.
Today. Don't worry about tomorrow. Today.